Good evening, West Orange. Good evening, residents. Thank you all, our honored guests tonight, and welcome to our February 19th conference agenda meeting. Madam Clerk.
This is to inform the general public that this meeting is being held in compliance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. The annual notice was emailed to the Star Ledger and filed in the Township Clerk's office on September 26, 2018, and published in the West Orange Chronicle on October 4, 2018. Councilwoman Castellino?
Present.
Councilman Kukoviac?
Present.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Present.
Councilwoman McCartney?
Present.
Council President Garino.
Present. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'd like to start off our conference agenda with a presentation by Jacqueline Philbin, registered dietitian from ShopRite of Essex Green for National Nutrition Month, which is March. So, Jacqueline, would you like to come up and make your presentation, please? And welcome tonight.
So, hello, my name is Jackie Philbin, and I'm the registered dietitian at the ShopRite of Essex Green. And I wanted to thank you for accepting my invitation to attend tonight's meeting and declaring March as National Nutrition Month. Also, I wanted to tell you that there's water and recipe booklets up here for everyone after the meeting. So, National Nutrition Month is a campaign created by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, which is celebrated each year during the month of March, and focuses attention on the importance of making informed food choices and developing sound eating and physical activity habits. As the local ShopRite dietitian, I provide a free service to the community, which includes one-on-one nutrition counseling, Shop with the Doc store tours, nutrition education class series, and visits to local schools and senior groups. Over the past year, I've attended a career day at Kelly Elementary, health fair at West Orange High School, field day at Mount Pleasant, as well as multiple preschools teaching the 5 senses. Thankfully, not all on the same day. I've chatted with senior groups about heart health, cooking for one, to reduce food waste, and even trendy nutrition topics with the prime timers. Some of you may also see me at the Mayor's 5K, passing out protein drinks and coconut water this past year. My goal over the next month during National Nutrition Month is to help the residents of West Orange discover the benefits of healthy eating. I also always advocate to keep nutrition simple. Eating right doesn't have to be complicated. I plan to educate residents how to select healthier options during our sit-down appointments and while walking the aisles of ShopRite. Some of you may have seen me assisting customers during our annual Thanksgiving rush. Developing healthier habits also includes physical activity, which I'm no expert in, but I'm excited for the recent opportunity I've had to help coach in West Orange. As a former collegiate athlete, ice hockey that is, I'm happy to help with the Mountaintop Ice Hockey program, hopefully sneaking in some healthy snacking and pregame fueling for all the young players. To wrap things up, as a ShopRite dietitian, I want to be your go-to person for nutrition information in the community, and I'm thankful that you're recognizing the importance of health and nutrition in March. Thank you, everyone, for declaring March as National Nutrition Month.
Jackie, thank you very much. I'd like to make a presentation now on behalf of the mayor. It was really good. Thank you for helping me out, too. Did you call Jackie or Jacqueline? Jackie, okay. Jackie, thank you for being here tonight on behalf of my council colleagues and the residents of West Orange, and also on behalf of Mayor Robert Parisi. We'd like to read this proclamation for you. National Nutrition Month 2019 proclamation. Whereas food is the substance by which life is sustained, and whereas the type, quality, and amount of food that individuals consume each day plays a vital role in their overall health and physical fitness, and whereas there is a need for continuing nutrition education and a wide-scale effort to enhance quality, healthy eating practices. Now, therefore, on behalf of Mayor Robert D. Parisi, Mayor of the Township of West Orange, New Jersey, do hereby proclaim the month of March National Nutrition Month in West Orange, New Jersey. And I encourage all citizens to join the campaign and become concerned about their nutrition and the nutrition of others in the hope of achieving optimum health for both today and tomorrow. Done on this 19th day of February, 2019. Thank you very much. Thank you for what you do. We appreciate it.
Thank you for everything you do. You're very busy here in the
Thank you.
township.
Okay. Moving right along. Updates on redevelopment. Mr. Sayers.
I don't know if any of you guys went to the open house that, oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if anybody went to the open house and took a look at the units. They're very beautiful, very nice. They're moving along. They're still renting. There are over 100 units in the Battery Building. And they are, I had a conversation with them on Friday, and they're hoping to have a proposal for Phase 2 possibly by mid-March or the end of March.
Great.
Okay. Any questions on my colleagues?
No.
Councilwoman Castellino?
I just want to add, they really did a nice job. We had a
Beautiful.
large group of people toured the facilities. The amenities are very high-end, very beautiful. We talked to a few of the residents that were walking in throughout the building. They're enjoying their time here.
Yeah,
Some
they
new-
really like it, the residents.
new residents to West Orange, and they're getting acquainted with our township and enjoying it here. So look forward to the building filling up.
Absolutely.
Okay. Councilwoman Matute Brown, any questions?
You said there were two businesses that were interested in the,
I didn't say two.
Oh,
They-
I'm sorry.
He told me there were some businesses,
Some,
but he won't-
okay.
he's not telling me what they are.
What they are, okay.
Unfortunately. But he did say they were looking, one of them was looking for a liquor license, so I think it's a restaurant.
that's positive to hear.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Councilwoman McCartney?
No, I agree with Jack. I was on the tour. It's a lovely setup that they had, and
It's amazing what they did
I
inside
know.
that building. It really
Yeah.
is amazing to me. when
The
you look at it.
transformation.
Oh, it's beautiful. It really is beautiful.
You know, from my point, the workmanship is unbelievable.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's just, you know, up to the hill, and it's just a nice environment. They really did a nice job, the gym, the pool,
And like I said, if you talk to the people who are living there, they really enjoy it.
and the doggy grooming too. That's great. I mean, you know, it's
You're
like-
right about that.
and the view.
And the view. Councilman Kukoviac, any comments, sir? Any questions to Mr. Sayers on
No,
redevelopment?
I was just scratching my cheek because Mr. Sayers anticipated my questions very well
Phase two.
about Phase 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I spoke to them on Friday, and he didn't give me a definite date, but he's telling me sometime possibly mid-March to the end of March. And I told him that I will still be talking to him once a week about when we're getting the proposal. So he's well aware of that, trust me.
Okay, thank you. There are empty seats. If anyone would like to sit down, there are empty seats up here in front. Don't be shy. We don't bite. So come on and join. Thank you. Thank you very much. I just want to make a mention too, to my colleagues and to the members of the public, when you come up to speak, please, bless you, please speak into the microphones, please speak clearly. This way everybody can hear, and this way on TV it comes out, because there were some issues where some of the dialogue didn't come through, but that's okay. I just want to make that comment. Council liaison announcements. Councilman Kukoviac.
I'm going to pass.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to talk about pedestrian safety, if it's okay. We had a great meeting on the 13th. Our next Pedestrian Safety Advisory Board meeting will be March 13th, 7:30 p.m. at the ECEC at Turtleback Zoo. For additional presentation, plus crash data from the West Orange, our members from the West Orange High School, some more data on our road diet, complete streets, and potential rolling out of a mediated, condensed version of Vision Zero that's being put together. So it was a very good meeting, very productive. We're really moving forward. You must realize, too, that a lot of towns are starting to look at what we do here in West Orange. Our data is great. We're going forward with, our crash data. And other than the county, pedestrian fatalities are down, but on a county-wide, we need to get the county more involved, and we're moving in that right direction. So I'm really excited about that. And you should come and hear our student interns, who are phenomenal. and really helping us move forward with our program for complete streets and our data. And hopefully, too, Mr. Lepore will have his final drawings and layout for the Main Street Road Diet, which is something we're really excited about. Other than that, I would like to ask Executive Director Megan Brill for comments on downtown West Orange, please.
Thank you, Council President. Megan Brill, Executive Director with the Downtown Alliance. I did attend the Lofts open house, and I spoke with the media company for the Lofts, and there's a great picture with Councilwoman Castellino and McCartney in the photo op, and it should be out in the next couple of weeks, in the next couple of days. So as soon as that's out, I will send it to you, but it should highlight all the amenities that we saw, which was pretty neat. We also just want to alert everyone that vendor forms are out for the street fair. You can find that on our website and in the township email blast that comes out. And you can email downtown@westorange.org and you'll get that. The early bird rate of $100 for a non-resident and $75 for a resident ends March 1st. So if you want to lock in at that rate and you're a crafter or a retailer, you need to jump on board now. The other thing that we just finished, we wrapped up our second holiday lights contest, and this time we did Valentine's Day. And we had over 250 different people voting every day for their favorite storefronts. And I'm happy to say that our yoga studio was by far the top pick. And she had a big yoga heart in her window with all kinds of yoga and love words on it. Second place went to our florist, which is one of our oldest businesses downtown, A&K Florist. And third place was Prime Jewelry, our new jewelry store downtown. And then pretty close in there was Willow and Olivia, who ended up winning the Christmas holiday lights contest when we did it the first time. So those were our winners, and we weren't going to do a St. Patrick's Day contest, but the stores are already getting decorated and they all want to be on board. So Supreme Bakery's got their setup already, and the Florist has her setup already. So you'll be able to see all of that and be able to vote off of our website and the township website. It's kind of a neat thing that we were able to do with Google Docs.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
Any of my colleagues have any questions for Megan? No?
More to come.
Okay. Meetings tomorrow night, 7 o'clock in the
Yes.
conference room?
Third Wednesday of every month.
Okay. Thank you very much, Megan. Appreciate it.
Weather too, so if we end up having to do an emergency close, it'll be on the website and on the door.
Okay. Thank you very much, Megan. If I can go back for 1 second, too, I just want to, and just point out that we have an honored guest tonight. We have Mr. Joe Fagan tonight, our township historian, and a big shout out to Joe Fagan. He's one of the deputy grand marshals of the 58th West Orange St. Patrick's Day Parade. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I made him. Thank you, Mr. Fagan. Thank you for the history you keep coming through at West Orange. We thank you very much. Councilwoman McCartney.
Okay, on council liaison. The board at the Rena House met for the first time this year, and applications for requests for walk-in tubs are now available if any seniors at the Rena House are interested in that. The Arts Council, starting February 23rd, will have the West Orange High School students exhibition up from February 23rd through March 24th, and there will be reception at 1 to 4. The Arts Center is at 551 Valley Road, open to the public. There is one Sunday left for the West Orange Film Festival, A Face in the Crowd, on Sunday, February 24th at 2 o'clock at the AMC Theater. I am chairing the Friends of Thomas Edison National Historic Park nominating committee. If anyone would like to join the Friends board, please reach out. It's lots of fun. Conserving and preserving the artifacts at the Thomas Edison National Historic Park. The planning board will meet March 7th, study area needed redevelopment right here in our parking lot at the library. And also on March 12th will be the master plan. Here, the re-exam of the master plan, meeting here at Town Hall. 7:30 on March 12th. the West Orange Environmental Center, Commission, will launch Earth Hour. That's that phenomenal global event that happens every year on the last Saturday in March, where lights in 170 countries are turned off to send a very strong message about conserving energy around the world. So we have a launch at the Thomas Edison National Historic Park, 4 o'clock on March 3rd, open to the public. And just a shout out to everyone that was able to attend the Mayor's State of the Town address the West Orange Chamber sponsored on February 6th. We had a record number, 321 people in attendance. So thank you all for that. The Mayor did an outstanding job. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Matute Brown.
Michelle, thank you for reminding me. We are collecting, and I have to first and foremost say thank you to everyone, both ladies and gentlemen, who've been very generous with your donations. We started a prom closet to make sure that we're able to give every student at the high school the experience of attending prom. Sometimes it's not that easy, but everyone's been so generous, and we're still collecting probably through the second week of March. So if you have dresses, please let me know. I can pick up or you can drop off, and gentlemen's suits too. That you're no longer using, please do be sure to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Castellino.
Thank you, Council President. Great week for new businesses opening here in the township. Last week, Councilwoman McCartney and I attended two. Blow Blow Dry Bar up in Kmart Shopping Plaza in the back, right behind Retro's Fitness. It's very exciting to see a salon come to that shopping plaza. It's been about 30 years plus since Les Shop was there many years ago. So Dewana Williams is the owner. We wish her a lot of luck and welcoming her to West Orange. You could go get your hair blown out, and she also has a makeup artist up there for her. So we wish her well. Also, in Essex Green, we have the Mitasu Umi Sushi and Bar up there next to Hook and Reel, which is their sister organization that will be opening soon. So we're excited to have another new restaurant. The food was delicious. The decor is very unique, so I would suggest go take a visit with all these new restaurants in town. We're hoping we're going to push back this year Restaurant Week. We have a few more restaurants opening up, so we'll be looking forward to working on that project for a Restaurant Week here in the township sometime in September of this year. For all you sports fans, the West Orange Unico is having their scholarship sport breakfast this Sunday, February 24th at West Orange High School at 10 a.m. Dwight Gooden is the guest speaker this year. Great ball player and also a very, very great story about his life that he'll be sharing with all that attends. And thank you to the Unico. They'll be giving out 7 scholarships to West Orange student athletes. So we appreciate all the hard work they do all year in raising funds for that. Monday night is a Taste of West Orange Rotary on the 25th from 6 to 9 p.m. at Mayfair Farms. That's always a nice event. And I want to thank Mr. Keogh, Edwin Johnson, and the West Orange Recreation Department. Yesterday, they provided a clinic to our lacrosse athletes up at West Orange High School. And a shout out to the 25 West Orange student athletes who came out to assist with 45 lacrosse players here in the township. So it's been a great sport that's been growing. Kudos to our rec department for having it grow so quickly because of their work and effort working with the high school this spring. Excited to attend one of their first games of the West Orange girls lacrosse program. So we're looking forward to that opening up. And I see Mr. Keogh over there now. So thank you, Mr. Keogh and Edwin, for bringing this sport and growing it here in the township. And one last announcement. We just want to congratulate. A few of us attended a new Eagle Scout in town, Michael McCullen, Pack 6. Michael, very impressive young man, lovely family. Very tough to get to that level of Eagle Scout. And if you drive by through the parking lot on the Conforti entrance at West Orange High School, it was Michael's service project for all the new landscaping at West Orange High School. So we thank Michael and his troop and all the scouts in town for all that they do for us. Council President, I am
Thank you.
done with my
Thank you,
report.
Councilwoman. I just have to make one apology to the West Orange St. Patrick's Day Committee. I made a mistake with the year. I made them younger than what they really are. It's the 68th St. Patrick's Day Parade. So I hope every one of our residents come down to Main Street, share in the St. Patrick's Day Parade, meet some new neighbors, and have a good time. And I apologize for making it the wrong year, but 68 years and another 68 years and more. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk. Oh, we got 4 minutes. Okay, so we'll wait 4 minutes. What I'd like to say, coming prior to the public meeting, and what I'm asking the residents here tonight and speakers, if you have anything to say about the Rock Spring proposal, I'm asking that you wait till after the mayor's and the administration's presentation, and then you can ask your questions. This way, anybody who has any other questions or topics can come up during public comment, but if you have any comments to make about Rock Spring, please wait until after the mayor's presentation. So I just want everybody to know that. So this way it keeps everything in order, it keeps everything moving, and it keeps, chronological. So this way it's all one thing at the end, and maybe some of your questions will be answered, maybe some of your concerns will be addressed during the presentation, and that's the reason why I'm asking this. I ask when you come up, you have your time to speak. I ask you to speak clearly into the microphone as you want us to speak clearly into the microphone. So that's what I ask. And you are allocated to your 5 minutes. So that will be upheld, and that's what you have. You have your 5 minutes to speak, and we appreciate everybody's cooperation and decorum. So I thank you for that. And we'll be starting our public meeting very shortly. So thank you. And welcome to our February 19th Public Council meeting. Madam Clerk.
This is to inform the general public that this meeting is being held in compliance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. The annual notice was emailed to the Star Ledger and filed in the Township Clerk's office on September 26, 2018, and published in the West Orange Chronicle on October 4, 2018. Councilwoman Castellino?
Present.
Councilman Krokoviac?
Present.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Present.
Councilwoman McCartney?
Present.
Council President Garino.
Present.
Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? The council is now in their public meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you to all the residents who have come tonight. I ask everybody to keep decorum. There's just one meeting. As I open public comment, please raise your hand, state your name, and when you come to the podium, of course, speak clearly, state your name and your address, and we'll move forward. And remember, I did mention, if you have any questions or public comment about the Rock Spring proposal, we're asking that you hold that till after the administration and the mayor's presentation. So other than that, is there anyone for public comment? Any resident? Yes, sir. Good evening.
Members of the West Orange Council, good evening.
Your name and address, sir? I'm
My
sorry.
name is Derek Fogg. Okay. My name is Derek Fogg. I'm a past resident of West Orange, a police officer in the city of Clifton, the vice president of the Clifton PBA Local Number 36. While a resident in this township, I was employed by the Recreation Department as a lifeguard, swim coach, a pool manager, as well as working for the Ground Maintenance Division. My mother is still a resident. I'm here to speak to you about the issue local PBA and township have with contract negotiations. I've heard that the township of West Orange is requesting to have new hires not receive health benefits and retirement, as well as the possibility of members taking 0% wage increases. I beg you, please do not go down this road. Prior to being hired in the city of Clifton, I was offered a possible position in this township. After speaking with many police officers, I was told to go to Clifton if I had the opportunity. These officers stated that Clifton had a reputation as one of the best departments in the state of New Jersey. That has such changed. We are now considering one of the departments who are a laughing stock. This change developed all by a few bad contract choices which were made both by the city and the PBA. In the past two contracts, Clifton PBA has taken a 0 for 1 year, followed by a second contract where PBA took 3 zeros. This resulted in Clifton going from one of the top 3 paid police departments to one of the lowest departments in Passaic County. Even with the PBA taking 3 zeros, the city of Clifton still raised the tax base by 3.5%. Also in 2012, the city of Clifton offered the PBA a contract which separated our new officers hired after 2013 to a different pay scale. This scale lowered the starting pay and created 27 6-month steps. Under threats of arbitration, the PBA agreed to this contract. What are the results? As of now, over 20% of the officers hired after 2013 have left for other departments. We are on continued hiring cycle, which has cost the city in training costs. Our overtime rate has grown, with the city paying well over $1 million a year because our manpower is so far below our table of organization. Police department morale is an all-time low. Officers disagreeing with each other, all based on different salary scales. There's been an increase in grievances, all because of what used to be the cost of doing business is more scrutinized. The citizens of the city are now becoming upset with our current council, voting to upset and remove 2 incumbent council members for council members who we hope to see the future. Basically, request to basically divide your union by offering no health benefits to your new officers, while current officers receive the benefits and also taking zeros. Your township is headed in the same direction. The situation this division creates is not only bad for the police department, it's bad for the township and the citizens of West Orange. It will cost the township of West Orange financially. The cost of doing business will surely rise. Overtime, because you cannot fill shifts, lawsuits and training costs are sure to rise. Morale will lower, and no one wants to take a position in your township. If they do, they will surely be looking to leave for greener pastures as soon as they can. This township is a strong community with great values. I tried several times to get my mother to move. She refused to leave this town, selling her home and moving and purchasing another one in West Orange. My wife constantly asks me, what is it with you people from West Orange? Whether you know each other or not, you treat each other like you've been friends for years. That image is one to cherish. Please don't let things change because you divide your bargaining units. Don't sell out your future for minimal gains 30 years from now. The police department is sure to suffer the effects. The council will sure hear the effects. And the most important, the citizens will definitely feel the effects. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Officer Jasek, good evening.
Good evening. Chris Jaksic, President of the West Orange PBA Local 25. I'm here to express our concerns with the current direction that the Township Administration is looking to take this department, ultimately the Township. We've been working without a contract for 14 months, this due to both sides not being in agreement about the way the Administration wishes the agency to proceed. The future of this agency and this Township is of the utmost importance to us. We potentially will have 26 members retiring in the next 2.5 years. There could be as many as 20 leaving in 2020, so next year. This does not count the ones that will not retire here. They will be leaving with for better pay and benefits elsewhere, like some are doing right now. With the current freeze on hiring and those leaving, the end result will be a department in the numbers in the low 70s, while in the early 2000s we were working with 120 members. The manpower feasibility study that was done in the early 2000s at the request of then Mayor John McKeon called for a department of 125. Yet today we are at 96. So while the township is expanding with multiple large projects in various stages of development, and now the purchase and development of a golf course, the population continues to increase and the department does not. We cannot do more with less. The department has never recovered from the layoffs of 2011. That ultimately showed little benefit to the township. Surrounding agencies continue to expand, like Orange, who just hired 15 to bolster their numbers to 130, the highest it's been in the 25 years I've been a police officer here. Since the start of negotiations, every offer from the township has demanded that we agree to eliminating health benefits for future employees. While there is a return to the members that vote that in, the long-term damage far outweighs any amount of increase that is ever being offered. In fact, the return for taking that deal will actually move us from the second lowest paid department in Essex County to the lowest. So the end result will be the lowest paid in the county with no benefits available upon retirement for anyone hired after that is put in place. Who would ever take that job with those parameters? While this is a rhetorical question, I'll answer it. No one. We have already seen this occurring in the communications division in the police department, where we cannot keep employees, as they are the lowest paid in the county and do not receive benefits upon retirement. In fact, we have hired and lost 12 employees in the last 3 years in the communications division. We just lost another dispatcher in the last week, as she will leave for a $16,000 raise to walk out the door and will get benefits with a local agency. South Orange just recently settled with their officers with a 6-year contract, 2% per year, among other changes, 0 changes to their benefits. Verona just recently settled and gave up no benefits and received very good raises. Livingston also recently settled for a reasonable raise and gave up, again, no benefits. So as you, the council, who ultimately has the fiduciary responsibility to residents of the Township of West Orange, also needs to be concerned with the safety of those same residents. You have the final say on contracts that have been negotiated. While you may not be involved in the actual negotiations, you do vote on the final deal. So if we negotiated a 10% raise each year for 4 years and you know that it can't be done financially, you would vote no. This is the same type of thing, not only the financial aspect of this, but also the long-term damage that will be done. While the township believes all current employees will get the benefits currently being negotiated, the township also knows that everything within the contract is negotiable and can be changed at a future date, when those not getting the benefits outnumber those getting the benefits. We cannot police 50,000 residents, answer 50,000 calls for service annually with 70 or so officers. Those numbers do not work. The future of this agency and the township are in your hands. Thank you.
Good evening. Michael Cassidy, President, West Orange PBA Local 25, Superior Officers Association, and property owners of 1 Carey Street. The township is refusing to move away from its stance that any negotiations must include eliminating retirement health benefits for new hires. Next council meeting, you will hear how much this will save the township beginning in the year 2049. What you will not hear is how much it will cost. The biggest cost to the taxpayers will be the ability to attract and retain the most qualified applicants to be police officers as the nationwide police recruitment crisis continues. The State Comptroller's report in 2012 stated, "We found specifically that the use of insurance brokers by the local government units contributed to additional costs in providing health care coverage. The expense of such brokerage fees is not incurred by the local government units participating in the state health benefit plan. Further, since the broker's profit often is directly related to the amount of insurance premiums or fees the local government unit pays, there are conflicting incentives for brokers in seeking lower health care alternatives for the local government units they represent. One broker we interviewed admitted that the broker has no incentive to promote the state health benefit plan as a health care option for its clients. We believe that if the township would sit down and have serious talk about our health care plan, we can save the taxpayers money now and into the future. You will hear the township say that we can't. The contract says equal to or better. Well, we are willing to sit down and have that discussion. Remember, it costs a lot of money to recruit, train, and hire new police officers. There's a competitive job market for experienced police officers. Why would anyone stay if they could go to almost any other police department, have retirement health care through the department or the state of New Jersey, Chapter 330, which if we give up health benefits, our officers will not be eligible for. I asked the Township Council to look at the contracts that they're going to be asked to approve in the coming weeks. Ask how much is this going to cost in the next 30 years. I can assure you now that we can save substantial money now by closely looking at our health care costs.
Thank you.
So the taxpayers know right now the pre-Medicare retiree under the private self-insured plan for somebody under 65, the total cost is $50,422 for the family plan. The township could save $24,884 by going to the state health benefit plan. There are substantial savings here. The numbers don't lie. I implore you to please look at this. We can do a better job, we can reduce the cost, and we can continue to get qualified police officers.
Good evening. My name is Pat Colligan. I'm the president of New Jersey State Policemen's Benevolent Association, located on Main Street in Woodbridge. The numbers Mike gave you today is what we ran. They're based on your numbers. I hope you take them back in executive session and take a strong look at them. Regretfully, I have a 100% success rate. And I say regretfully because I've appeared in front of freeholder meetings and council meetings throughout this state, from Sussex County literally to Cape May County. I have a 100% success rate in being correct when I'm making predictions here. My advice to you tonight is when you're buying this golf course, include a revolving door, because you're going to need it for the front of your police station. Your police station, like mine was in 1996, when they separated and made 2 separate police departments, is going to be a revolving door. They fixed it in 2000, and we were able to start retaining members. You're going to ask yourself why. Why are these numbers so disparate from what you're paying now? I'm going to make that point simple. I think Mike touched on it already. Healthcare brokers can't make a commission when they push the state health benefits program. So I'm going to make another prediction. When you get into executive session, and if the mayor happens to show up, he's going to give you a lot of answers why this isn't a good idea. And if you are sitting on this council and you don't ask the mayor hard questions about these numbers and why the PBA has offered to sit and talk about it, you need to resign on behalf of the members of the Township of West Orange. If you're not going to ask him hard questions, then you should walk out the door now. It's just not fair to the taxpayers. This was not with the FMBA, and I'm not representing the FMBA. This was not collective bargaining. It is not collective bargaining with the PBA. It is bargaining with a shotgun to their heads. They signed that contract in the FMBA because they had no opportunity. They had no choice. The exact same shotgun is being put to the PBA members' heads. I'm telling you, if you don't get in there and ask the hard questions, say goodbye to your police department. And I know a lot about the Township of West Orange. We've represented them since they became a PBA. It'd be a shame to see them go. The morale, I'm telling you, if you don't know it already, the morale in this agency can't really get any lower, but it will when that contract is signed. Thank you.
Anyone else, public comment? Yes, sir.
John Carlo Cefalo, property owner, 17 Lowell. I have no prepared remarks. I'm going to make this short and sweet. I'm not a police officer. I have nothing to do with the first responders. I served 5 years in the military. They defended a town. I defended a country. During the last shutdown, soldiers were still paid. Through all that political wrangling, the U.S. military was paid. Federal government does not want to jeopardize our country. Why would you want to jeopardize our town? Thank you.
Is there anyone else? No? Okay, so I guess everybody else is here for Rock Spring. Yes.
We need to take a break for setup.
Sure. Yes, sir. We'll take a 5-minute break. Okay. First of all, thank you very much all for coming tonight. The mayor and the administration will be making a presentation, a very detailed presentation on the Rock Spring proposal. I do ask that you have decorum, listen to the presentation, and then we'll have public comment for any questions or inquiries based upon the Rock Spring proposal and the presentation. I ask you all to please pay attention. One meeting. This is one meeting. Please keep the quorum. Thank you very much. Mayor Parisi.
Council President, thank you. Sorry about that. Can everyone hear us? Yes. Great. I know it's crowded. We're going to go through this as quickly as we can and give everyone an opportunity to speak. So I just ask everyone to be a little patient. If at some point you can't hear, just let us know. We'll try to talk a little louder. So we are here today to talk about Rock Spring Golf Club. It is not something that any of us would have predicted only a few months ago. This is something that popped up because the club decided that they wanted to sell the land, and this is something that we've been forced to look into, but we think we have something that could be a great opportunity for this community. There have been a lot of professionals working on this. They are all here somewhere in this room and here available not only for council questions, but if there are members of the public that have questions. We have Ken Lucian and Craig McCarrick from Matrix New World as our environmental consultants. They did do some preliminary studies with the consent of council from last meeting. Mike Hanley and Wayne Seaton, our financial advisors. Everett Johnson, our bond counsel. John Dusenberry is our real estate counsel to address the closing if in fact we pursue that. We have our grant writer representative here to speak about the Green Acres grant application, and of course Mark Hendricks, who's done appraisal work for the community for a long time. They've all been working on this project, working a lot of hours over the last month or so to bring us to this point. Additionally, our township staff are B.A. Jack Sayers, attorneys Rich Trenk and Ken Kaiser, John Gross, our CFO. Lanny Laporte could not be here, but our engineer, of course, has worked a lot on this, as has Kevin Dillon, our tax assessor. So Rock Spring, it opened in 1925. It's 38 acres of land. It's a relatively small golf course as far as golf courses are concerned. It is an 18-hole golf course. It includes the clubhouse, pool, paddleball, and the tennis courts, as well as the maintenance garage. So in talking about this acquisition, let's look at quickly the township's open space acquisitions over the last 15 years. In 2005, the township purchased 51 acres, preserved 51 acres of land for a price tag of $10 million. That's roughly $193 per acre. In 2006, we purchased 4.6 acres for $1.75 million, about $379,000 an acre. 2007, 4.7 acres for $465,000. In 2009, 11.21 acres for $1.7 million. And in 2011, a little over 6 acres purchased for $1.12. So if you look at all our open space acquisitions in the last 15 years, it totals 77.86 acres for what was a $15 million price tag, with an average cost per acre of just under $200,000. So if you equate that over our 15-year history to the 138 acres of Rock Spring, it comes out to $27 million, or if you adjust that for inflation, it comes out to $33 million. But what we're looking at here is $11.2 million. So if you look at, in total, the amount of acreage we've preserved over 15 years, this is significantly much more land at a much smaller price tag. Now, there's a couple conditions of the sale that we should talk about. First, when we say anticipates an April 3rd closing, 30th closing, that's assuming all things go perfect, and as we know, sometimes in government they don't, but we're hopeful that that April 30th closing could be honored. However, if it doesn't, from April 30th to June 30th, there's a $3,000 per day cost that the town incurs in addition to the sale price. And the reason for that is what's laid out right here. Montclair Golf Club in this entire process has been incredibly cooperative, and they recognize that the township wants to operate it as a golf course and has agreed to maintain the golf course, to prepare the golf course for golf prior to closing. So if we don't close by April 30th, the township will pay $3,000 a day for that upkeep. If we in fact close prior to June 30th, we get a $3,000 per day credit, because then at that point, once we close, presumably the golf operator will continue the operation and preparation for golf. So again, that's a huge benefit in this whole process, Montclair's cooperation in preparing the course for golf. It also includes the equipment and the contents of the clubhouse, and that shouldn't be minimized. Golf equipment, all the contents of the clubhouse, tables, chairs, plates, all the things necessary in the garage to maintain and operate a golf course is included, and by all accounts, it's a rough value of $1 million included in the purchase price. And also, the Rock Spring name. Rock Spring obviously has historic value locally and certainly in this area, and the name is included in the sale price. So, why the concern, why the interest in buying the property? The property is currently zoned for 2 acre lots. So when you look at 138 acres, you factor out infrastructure and some other necessary things to deal with as part of a residential development, you're probably looking at single family homes, roughly 60 on 2 acre lots. So what does that mean to the township? Why are we here to say that maybe buying this is better than development? Well, the impact to West Orange on a private development would be no open space. So the entire 138 acres would be developed in some fashion or another. Presumably very nice homes, but there'd be no open space. There'd be no recreation space. They'd be big properties with probably a beautiful neighborhood, but there'd be no recreational space for the community. There'd be all the infrastructure concerns in the neighborhood that come with development, traffic, drainage, all the issues that you have to deal with. There's always an impact on schools. Not that that's always a negative. I've said plenty of times before, it should always be our goal to build a community that encourages young families to move here. But when you look at that, it doesn't mean that there's not an impact that has to be addressed. So 60 large single-family homes would have an impact on schools. On the upside, 60 large single-family homes would produce significant tax revenue, much more revenue than we're earning now. So there's some good and there's some bad. The question is, as a community, we have to decide if this is what we're okay with, or more realistic, are we okay with a very large residential development? Because it's the township's belief that it's not realistic that any developer is going to buy this property and develop homes on 2 acre lots. They're going to do everything in their power, even if it requires court action, to get a much denser development on that property. And what does that mean? Similar to a single-family development. It means no open space for the community, no recreational space for the community. It means the neighborhood infrastructure concerns probably much greater than just single-family homes, a much bigger impact on schools. The upside, there'd be significant housing options, probably significant affordable housing options for the community to consider, and there would be really significant tax revenue. We believe, and even if it was down the road several years and after court action, we believe we would probably realistically be looking at 10 to 20 units per acre as part of this project. And why are we saying that? There are several golf courses being sold around the state and the part of litigation right now. Lakewood, Eagle Ridge Golf Course, after litigation, is looking at 1,100 residential units to be built on that golf course. Ramapo, 700 residential units to be built on that golf course. Edgewood is only in the early stages. They're still doing a plan here, but again, looking at significant residential development on these golf courses. Right now, this isn't conjecture. This isn't our concern about what could happen. This is happening on golf courses in the state right now. And for many of you in the audience, you might know, it's happening in town right now, on the property at the Highlands on the other side of town. We're about to look at what is ultimately going to be a settlement of several hundred units on that property. So to think, if this golf club is to sell and to be built on 2 acre lots, it's simply not realistic. So there's been a lot of talk about the county. And I would tell you, if Anthony Puglisi is here tonight, the county has been incredibly cooperative from the beginning. When we were first told that Montclair wanted to sell this property, the first thing we did was reach out to Joe DiVincenzo, the county executive. And we said, is this something you'd be interested in? It's close to the recreation complex. You've operated golf courses. Is this something that could work out? So several meetings took place with the county executive and his entire staff, both at the county as well as at the country club with all their board and a lot of municipal representatives. And several discussions took place, and in the end, the county simply was not prepared to offer as much as the club wanted to take. And in fairness to the county, none of us as homeowners would accept an offer at what ultimately was half of what the property was worth, and that was all that the county felt was worth to them. So we then said, okay, that's not great. Would the county be prepared to partner with the township? And after conversations about the concept of partnering with the township, it was decided, and the county executive again was very cooperative, but he was very clear. He said the county does not participate, will not participate in this project if it included even the remotest potential of any development in the future. And the town simply didn't like that option or want to commit to that in the long term. And here's why. There's no doubt that the county is good at recreation complexes, great at golf courses, and that would be good for this particular property. It would maintain it as a golf course, all 138 acres. However, the township would lose the revenue. We would lose $585,000 in revenue with no chance of recouping that. And in addition to that, not only are we going to lose the revenue, but our residents would never have any benefit to the property for that loss of revenue unless they were golf players. So although initially we thought a partnership with the county was a great concept, after all the discussions, after realizing that it probably was not going to happen, we also came to the conclusion that that's probably not in our best interest. So we started to look at the idea of purchasing ourselves and looking hard at the financial consideration. So we have a property here that is assessed at $14.5 million. That means the property taxes are based on $14.5 million. What does that mean for the municipal, the Board of Ed, and the county? The municipal portion, comes out to about $146,000. The Board of Education piece comes out to about $362,000, and the county piece comes out to about $76,000. However, although that's the split on collected taxes, if the property is to come off the tax roll, the township bears the full burden of that $585,000. When a property comes off the tax roll, the Board of Education always gets their full chunk. The county always gets their full chunk. When we lose tax appeals, when we have to pay refunds, or we don't collect the full taxes, the township bears that burden. So when we say a property is going to come off the tax rolls, for example, by partnering with the county, the burden to the township is not the $146,000. It's the full $585,000. So that's a significant loss in tax revenue that we might never recoup. So when we got to the point as an administration where we said, okay, maybe this is something we should do ourselves, the first thought was, how do we maintain it as a golf complex? How do we maintain it as a golf course? We are not in the golf business. We are not going to learn to be in the golf business in 2 months. So we reached out to other government entities in the state, to other operators who are operating golf courses around the state for government entities, and came to the conclusion that we can get a golf operator in there, starting with a 2-year contract, to give us a 2-year window to see how that would work. They will pick up where Montclair leaves off with the maintenance and the preparation of the golf course, preparing it for golf for this season. They will maintain it as an active golf course. We will get golf proposals for 2 years. The operator will incur the risk. So we're not going to put a proposal together that we're going to share the risk. We're not going to share the operation costs. As you can imagine, It takes a lot of money to operate 138 acres of golf course. Fairways and greens have a very delicate maintenance responsibility. We don't want to be in that business. They'll maintain it. They'll maintain the risk. They'll absorb the risk. The township will simply collect a fee, and for that 2-year period, we will be able to decide as a community a couple things. We'll first be able to judge if there's an opportunity to operate it as a public golf course. Now, as I mentioned, there's golf courses around the state that are selling. Truth is, there's golf courses around the country that are selling. Those are private golf clubs that have a very different financial obligation than public courses. We believe that golf is still a very popular sport, and despite the financial struggles of many golf clubs, that this will be successful as a public course. However, under this scenario, it gives us 2 years to determine that. We can have 2 golf seasons, not only to see if there's interest, not only from this community, but from this region to support another public course. And we'll also have real data after 2 years to say, we've done enough rounds of golf, we've done this much in revenue, this can work as a long-term amenity for this community. So, what beyond that? And there's been a lot of talk in the community. I'm sure the council members have had conversations. I'm sure they've got emails, and we all track Facebook. What is the long-term plan for the property? I can tell you that the township has no long-term plan. The short-term goal here is to buy the property and to approve a 2-year operating contract to give us 2 years to develop a plan. There is no set plan for this property. And I'll remind everybody, just to be clear, asking the council to approve this purchase does not mean they are approving a specific plan. It simply means that the council would approve the purchase and then approve to set out to develop a plan. But what do we intend? What are our goals for this property beyond just the purchase? We want to operate as a golf course. We believe that golf can be successful and be popular. We believe that a 9-hole golf course can be popular. 9 holes are becoming popular around the state. There are other 9-hole golf courses. Jack Nicklaus's golf company, International, is actually building 12-hole golf courses. 18 does take a long time, and there is less interest in 18. So we believe that long-term, what might be best for the community is to develop it as a 9-hole golf course, giving us land to develop a recreational facility. A lot of people in the community, a lot of recreation advocates have advocated for a long time for a recreational facility. The one thing we've never had a lot of in this town is land. This might give us the land to create a great recreational facility. Walking paths, running paths. One of the things West Orange, as I just mentioned, has never had a lot of is land. This can give us open land to complement a golf course. Open space, parkland, and yes, a small-scale residential component to recoup the tax dollars that are going to be lost by buying this property, and ultimately would help to fund the future property. And Department of Public Works is part of that consideration. We'll talk about that in a sec. So again, none of this is necessarily contingent on the council's approval to buy the land. There are 2 separate components to this. One is to buy it with the agreement we will then develop a plan. These are simply suggestions and goals that the administration sees as viable for not only the development of the land, but for financing the purchase. So we talk about developing a small piece of it. 15 to 18 acres, only along Northfield Avenue. So we stay away from Walker Road, we stay away from the Rock Spring area, we stay away from Upper Gregory. We only develop along County Road of Northfield Avenue with access at Ridgeway Avenue, where there is an existing traffic light on Northfield Avenue. We would simply enter the property where there is already a traffic light on the county road. We think it makes sense to build an active adult community tied in with golf. not always very popular in Jersey, but certainly popular in the southern states, an active adult community that would be part of a golfing community with tennis, pools, and all the amenities that would go along with that. There would obviously be the applicable affordable housing component that's required in West Orange. And again, the community could be incorporated with golf and recreation. If we were to approve roughly 15 to 18 acres of land approved for a 175 residential unit complex, the market value of that land is conservatively $7.5 million. So if we were to develop a plan within a few years and carve out that section of land and sell it, we would recoup $7.5 million of the total bond price within the first couple of years. So, Department of Public Works. Been a point of concern with a lot of conversations I've had with residents about the idea of buying the property, but maybe not loving this component of this. So let's kind of talk about how we got here. Just like the township did not actively seek the purchase of Rock Spring, simply went for sale and we thought we should move on that, we are not actively looking to move Public Works. The fact is, we have to move Public Works. Whether it was good long-term planning or not, and whether we want to second-guess government, it's a national pastime, we're all free to do that. The Main Street redevelopment plan, Phase 2, requires that Public Works vacate its current location on Lakeside Avenue. Phase 2 of the Main Street redevelopment is getting scheduled to start. So we have to move Public Works. It's certainly not required that we rebuild Public Works in the same format. When Public Works was built in the late 80s, early 90s, the department was much bigger. The property was built to suit that department that size, and it is not required that we duplicate that. So we are looking for roughly 2 acres compared to what is now about 6 acres. It is mostly vehicle storage and phasing. Phasing meaning the men of Public Works would go there every day, get in their trucks, and go out to service the town. It would not be a garage. It would not be a salt dome. The current location of Public Works has one of our 2 salt domes. If we were to move the location closer to the center of town, we would not need the second salt dome. So this would be a much smaller property, much less intensive use than the Public Works location on Lakeside Avenue currently is. It would only have access off of Northfield Avenue. So it would not wind its way through the Rock Spring neighborhood, it would not wind its way through the Walker Road neighborhood. It would access to a county road. We believe, roughly, that to construct the facility we require to be roughly $5 million. The Main Street redevelopment agreement, that plan, already contracted, already in place, provides funding in the amount of $9.2 million, both for the acquisition of the property on Lakeside Avenue, as well as relocation costs. That leaves roughly $4.2 million going to be provided to us, not township money, provided to us from the redevelopment project and the redeveloper to offset the cost of the acquisition and as well as some of the amenities. So this is the course. So for bearings, this is Walker Road, this is Northfield Avenue. So when we talk about some of the things we're talking about, we believe Ridgeway is right here. That all access to the property, if we were to ever do anything, again, it's not, the plan is not part of this bond ordinance. We're really only talking about the sale, but now talking about what potential could be done with the property to help offset the cost of that sale, as well as building a great amenity for the community. We would only access off of Northfield Avenue. We believe that if we find that golf is viable and we want to move to a 9-hole golf course, we believe that the 9 holes can be carved out of these holes in the center. So all the holes in the land along Walker, along the perimeter of the property, would be left as open space or parkland. We believe Walking paths can be created around the 9 holes, running paths, public spaces. These acreage to the south of Walker Road, what is currently holes 4 and 5, would be left undeveloped. It would simply be open space, parkland for that neighborhood, maybe a driving range for a public 9-hole course, which currently is a very small range. There's been some suggestion that we could build a couple par 3 holes there, where currently it's 2 holes. You can probably fit 6 par 3 holes. Maybe it's for young kids, maybe it's for starter programs, rec programs. A lot could be done with that, but we would leave that as open space. Where we think, if we decide that this is the best location for moving public works, again, we have to move it. If we think this is the best location, we think here is a reasonable area for a couple reasons. Hard to see on the map. Besides that, it's close to the Ridgeway access. You can't tell by the topography on this map, but that part of the course has much lower topography. So between the higher ground and some trees, it would be very easy to buffer, and the parcel of land that could be used as a public works would be completely invisible to nearly everyone and everywhere around it, again, with quick access. We think down here, we can carve out 15 to 18 acres all along Northfield. Here are existing townhouses, so we have additional construction here, staying away from the Walker Road neighborhood, staying away from this neighborhood, away from the Rock Spring neighborhood and the Upper Gregory neighborhood, to minimize traffic as much as possible, to minimize any drainage concerns, because if you are familiar with the property, this is the lowest part of the property. So we don't believe that developing that section of the property would cause drainage or other developmental issues in neighboring parts of the community. Again, we like the idea of a recreational component, and we believe that where the existing tennis courts are, there's an existing parking lot. Up in this area here, there's plenty of room to develop some sort of first-class recreational space, not only for the community, but for those of you who maybe have dragged your kids around the state to a number of these facilities. They also can generate significant revenue because a number of them, if they're well built, can be generating activity and usage almost 15 hours a day. So if that's something we want to pursue, we think up in this area makes sense. So it's a great property. It's not a huge golf course. Some golf courses are much more land, but we believe that this not only preserves it and prevents it from being developed, but it enables us to provide a great amenity to the community, keeping golf, open space, a little development, possibly recreation. And again, if we decide we can have the potential to put Public Works here, again, because we have to move Public Works as part of phase 2 of redevelopment. So actually, one more thing. Back to Public Works. Although I understand there's legitimate concerns about that, we should keep in mind, this golf course, as in any golf course, already has a maintenance garage. And the maintenance garage we would suggest to be Public Works really would not be, they'll be a little bigger, it wouldn't be any different in usage than the golf course itself already has as a maintenance facility. So, purchasing the club. I can tell you I'm in government a long time. This is the largest single bond this government's ever entertained. So we're not minimizing the significance of that. The question we have to ask ourselves as a community is, are we okay with Montclair Country Club just selling this on the market to a developer and waiting out years of litigation to see it overdeveloped? We don't think so. So how do we pay for this? How do we move forward? We asked the council to issue bonds. Again, a large bond issue. Green Acres funding, which we'll talk about in a second. We believe we can sell a small section of the property for development, but complementary to the property. Golf operations, though we don't believe, even as an 18-hole golf course, it would ever generate enough money to offset taxes, and there's no reason to think it will, because there's no golf course in the state that generates enough money for the government entity to offset taxes, but we do think it would generate money. We also think, though, it's much less significant if we got to the point where we wanted to build a recreational facility. We do believe there's potential for rental fees there. And again, if we look to put Public Works there, there's also funding that could help offset this project. So, the bond, $11.283 million, again, with the potential of a $3,000 per day credit if we close before June 30th, but roughly $11.2 million is the sale price. There are soft costs of $767,000, $340. That represents a little over a $12 million bond, certainly a significant dollar amount. What is the summary of the soft costs? To issue the bonds, $44,500. Engineering, environmental, legal costs, there are closing costs, the Green Acres application, miscellaneous costs, and the amortization. So what does that mean? Because the lost tax revenue for 2019 represents less than 5% of the total bond, the local finance board will allow us to put that lost tax revenue in this bond, which means the cost to the township for 2019 to buy this property, the cost to us as a community, the impact on the 2019 budget is zero. If the council were to approve this bond, we can buy this property and not incur any cost for 2019. So, Green Acres, the open space acquisitions I pointed out earlier, all of them were acquired by the township with the assistance of Green Acres. They'll never provide more than 50% funding, but they will provide 50% of the funding of the undeveloped land. But here's what's potentially a bonus. If we look to preserve 120 acres of the land after we carve out a section for potential development, we can get 50% of the funding towards that 120 acres, but not of the purchase price, of the assessed price. And if you remember earlier, I said that the assessed value of the property is over 14 million, but the purchase price is only a little over 11 million, which means if we can get 50% on only the 120 acres, it's probably going to be close to 50, if not more than 50, of the total bond. So with the Green Acres application, we can get, we're estimating at 5.238, but that number we believe is conservative and low because that's based on the sale price, not the assessed and appraised price. So we think that number for the purpose of modeling is low, but still makes the numbers work. So this is a lot, and in some cases it's a very general summary of what we're looking at and what this means to the community over the short term. As I mentioned, we'll look through the costs first. There's no cost to the township in 2019, no impact on the 2019 budget. In the second year, yeah, there's a big impact. That $911,000 represents the lost taxes of $585,000. Remember I mentioned it's the full tax burden the township bears. We take the full burden, plus the cost of the bond and the debt service now for the little over $12 million we just bonded. In year two, again, lost tax revenue and the bond payments. All these numbers through the first 8 years, through 2026, are a combination of the lost tax revenue of $585,000 and the cost to carry the debt. Now, we all know, regrettably, taxes go up every year. These numbers don't account for that. So because we can all assume that a $585,000 annual tax would probably go up, we didn't calculate that. We just stuck with what the debt service, the lost tax revenue would be for today. So we have not accounted for that in any of the modeling. So if you look at that, after 8 years, 2026, this project has cost the town a little over $5 million to accept the lost tax revenue and to carry the cost of the bond for 8 years. What do we generate in revenue? We believe, conservatively, that even though an April 30th closing would be great, it still even cuts into golf operations a little bit. And maybe more realistically, it's maybe a middle of May closing. So we're already into a golf season. However, again, the golf course is going to be prepared, thanks to Montclair. We still think we'll generate revenue in this first year. We think $100,000 is reasonable, if not even a little conservative. So no cost the first year, but we will generate $100,000 in revenue for the remainder of the golf season. So a big bond issue, a big step as a community, but we'll generate $100,000 in the first year. In the second year, we're basing $100,000 again. We think that's conservative. We think it could grow a little bit. We think we start to see, if not the second, by the third year, Green Acres funding. Green Acres funding on an application of this size and a dollar amount of this size with amount of land of this size, they won't pay it all at once. We would get payments in the amount of $750,000 as a maximum annual payment. So if we were to base it on a $5.2 million grant application and successful application from Green Acres, we would get that money over several years. So for the purpose of modeling, we modeled $750,000 payments until that was paid in full. So in year 2, cost us $911. We do generate a little in golf. We get a first payment in Green Acres. So we have total revenue of $850 with total obligations of $911. So yes, in the year 2, it's going to start to cost the town money. However, if you get to year 3, now in 2 years, as a community, we collectively agreed upon a plan for the property. Again, what I laid out here was just some ideas. We're asking the council to approve the sale, not a plan. We would then create a plan. If we create a plan and we agree that a certain piece of the land would be sold, that would be sold in year 3. We would get $7.5 million for the sale of approved buildable land in year 3. So we would start to significantly eat down at the cost of the bond by year 3 with another payment of $750,000 from Green Acres. And now that we sold the land, a private owner of that land would have a tax bill of roughly $250,000 based on the current tax rate, based on the amount of land. So we would start to generate taxes again from only the piece of land that was sold. So then if you carry that out for several years, if you get down to year 6, we're still operating golf. Maybe now we're down to just a 9-hole golf course. We're still getting Green Acres funding. We already got the $7.5 million. Now that, presumably that 15 to 18 acres gets developed, and now the property taxes for that property, based on the current tax rate, assuming it would be higher then, but based on current tax rate, if you built 175 residential units on that property, the property tax goes to $1.5 million. So now we're generating $2.4 million on the property that's only costing us $600,000 or so. So, like any venture, we recognize in the beginning this is going to cost us as a community. And that's maybe the biggest part of the issue for the council to consider. Is it worth the cost to buy this land, to prevent it from being developed, and to buy it with the potential of what can be built on it? We believe it is. We're asking the council to consider that, but we believe financially it can pay for itself in a very short time and ultimately earn significantly more revenue for the township than the property is currently generating, while still maintaining a golf course as a public golf course, while providing parkland, recreational facilities, open space. So if you just carry this out over 8 years, this bond issue would cost us $5 million, but conservatively, with increased property taxes, Green Acres successful grant funding, the sale of the land, and what we believe to be conservative golf operations based on other golf, municipally and county-owned golf facilities around the state, we believe in the same amount of time it costs us $5 million, we can generate $19 million, which would more than offset the cost of the bond and be left with 138 acres of town-owned land, municipal golf course, recreation space, open space, and any other number of things that we can think of that can serve this community. So, as I mentioned, Green Acres sale of property, we can get $12 million. We think we can recoup the bond in full in 8 years, develop only a small piece of it. I know there's a lot of people, and we've heard from a lot of people, who thinks it should never be developed, but we think if it's going to be in the township's best interest collectively, that a piece should be developed, so the rest of the property can be opened up to the public for a variety of public uses. And still, even if we develop a piece of it, we ultimately preserve 120 acres for golf, recreation, parkland, and residence use for all residents, not just those interested in golf. So look, as any big issue, as any issue that comes to the council, there's always a lot of different ways to look at an issue. And a lot of people have different priorities, and I respect that, and I know the members of the council respect that. You can look at this property from a financial perspective. If you only want to look at this from a financial perspective, saying that what government does, it should always be to maximize the revenue for the community, then we should simply let Montclair sell it and let someone come in and develop 1,200 units of residential living there. Township would collect a ton of revenue. That's not what I believe is in the best interest of the community. We can look at it from preservation. Maybe preservation, it would have been best if the county just bought it and kept it golf. We don't think that's a good idea because if you didn't play golf, you would never been able to appreciate it, and we would have lost all the tax revenue. We can look at it strictly from a recreational component. Recreation is the most important. Let's not even develop a piece. Let's build parks. Let's build fields. Let's build all these great things for the 10,000 students in our community can enjoy all their sports and activities. It could be a great recreational facility, the largest that this town has even considered probably in 70 years. You can look at a project like this strictly from a housing advocate perspective. We have a very significant affordable housing obligation we have with the state. We can satisfy that, almost 50% of that obligation with this property. So maybe we should look at this as providing affordable housing options for people in this community and this region. They're all valid perspectives. The problem is sometimes we have to make choices in government based on very valid perspectives. Neither side might be wrong. They just conflict. Certainly, housing advocates have valid points, but those views clearly conflict with those interested in preservation. Neither side is particularly wrong. They can't coexist. So we think when we look at this property, we can satisfy multiple community objectives. We recognize the significance of what we're asking. In fact, it's the only municipal purchase of a golf club even being considered in New Jersey. I mentioned those golf clubs earlier, and there's more than that. I mentioned 3. There's significantly more than that. Golf clubs around this state. There's one in North Polo right now, I didn't even mention, being sold for development. This is the only example in the entire state where a municipal entity is looking to purchase it, and that's because we think it's a very unique situation, it's a very unexpected situation, but we believe it's in the best interest of this community, both today and in the future, for the township to buy this property, because we believe it meets multiple community objectives, potential improved amenity, not only for golf fans, but for the entire community. Realtors have told me, and I know it's very hard to quantify property values, but several realtors have said that if you have a municipal golf course in town, that's a huge selling advantage when you're selling homes. And more importantly, recognizing that everything we do has a cost. And always a very important part of the consideration, we have a realistic path to fund this entire acquisition in 8 years with significantly more property taxes than we're currently collecting while still protecting 120 acres. So I understand there's people in the hallway. I understand there's probably a lot more people that are here that have questions about this. In addition, tonight we have set up a community meeting at Rock Spring for February 27th at 7 p.m. And we'll, of course, advertise that should the council decide to approve this on first reading and it's going to proceed to second reading. We will obviously advertise that. So on the council's agenda tonight, Ordinance 2563-19 is the ordinance authorizing the acquisition of land. Ordinance 2564-19 is the ordinance authorizing the issuance of bonds. Remember, as I said, we have some general ideas and goals for the property. That's not what the council is approving. If the council is to approve these 2 ordinances tonight, doesn't mean they're approving developing a piece of it, doesn't mean they're approving DPW going there, doesn't mean they're approving a recreational facility. It means the council agrees to purchase the property, to set in motion golf operations, and then to collectively as a community to develop a plan for the property. Resolution 67-19 is the resolution authorizing competitive contracting. That's where the township will issue an RFP, request for proposal, out into the world to all the golf operators to get their proposals for operating the golf course. I know some members of council, I know some members of the community have been concerned, what if no one responds to the RFP? As a matter of law, the contract is void if no one responds to the RFP. But as a matter of practicality, I can tell you that's not going to happen, because ever since this hit the press, the township has heard from 7 companies nationally who operate golf courses who are interested in the RFP. So we do not believe we're not going to get any interest. We believe we're going to get a lot of interest, and we'll be able to decide what's in the best interest of the community to turn this property over to a professional operator of golf courses. Resolution 68-19 is a resolution requesting local finance board approval. Anything the township does when it comes to bonding has to be approved by the local finance board. In this case, because of the size of the bond, it also has to be approved by the state. That process will happen simultaneous to each other, but in addition to council approval, we will require state approval and the local finance board approval. And lastly, Resolution 70-19 is a resolution authorizing the council to go into executive session in the event the council has questions concerning the contract, as questions of contract always are executive session matters, or also if they have questions about how this sale is going to impact current tax appeals that are currently pending on other golf courses in town. Also, as a matter of litigation, that would be an executive session matter. So that last resolution is there only in the event the council would like to retire into executive session to ask any of these questions. Other than that, all the professionals are here, both town professionals, hired professionals, and members of the administration. We are here for any questions from the council or questions from the public. Thank you.
On behalf of my council colleagues, I'd like to thank the administration and the mayor for your formative presentation on this potential proposal to the Township Council. And with the council's approval and permission, I'd like to open questions to the mayor. Now, pertaining to Rock Spring Country Club, does anyone have a question for the mayor or the administration? Yes, Mr. Grossman.
Harvey Grossman, I'm the public advocate here in town, and I've lived in town long enough so that I can remember a similar application bought by Peter Shapiro to buy the lower portion of the Essex County Country Club along Pleasant Valley Way, and that is kind of a template for the project that you're proposing, which I am strongly in favor of. And if that application, if that project was successful, there is no reason why this also should not be successful. The numbers, well, you know, they're projections. But I think that you're very courageous in proposing this.
Joe.
I could try to project, but I'll use this pattern the 9 West Road. I sleep under a window which overlooks the 17th green on the golf course, and have been a member until very recently at Rock Spring. It's really a beautiful property. You know, there's a lot of different opinions on what you could do with it, but I think the possibility of preserving 120 acres, I guess permanently from development, is pretty good. How is the Green Acre funding guaranteed? We hand an application, they give us the money, like golf, or it depends.
So unfortunately, it's never guaranteed. However, we believe in talking with our grant writer, talking with Green Acres, and both on our history. So we've had a lot of success with Green Acres, and I will tell you, we're talking about 138 acres. It's not often that, especially in northern New Jersey, you're able to preserve that much, even if it comes down to 120. So we believe that Green Acres would take this very seriously. They've indicated that already. Most of our acquisitions, as I mentioned earlier, were very small parcels, so I think Green Acres, to be able to preserve 120 acres in densely populated Essex County, New Jersey, I think that would be a priority for them, and we believe and feel pretty comfortable that we would get that funding.
Hi, my name is excuse me, Bob Durr, and I live with my family at 48 Rock Spring Road, so one of the houses right before you enter the club. It looks from what the schematic indicates that the area for development for public works and the housing, it looks to not necessarily, you know, the idea of off Northfield, but I can't honestly picture any of that. Maybe you can't either just yet, but are there houses by the area of public works and currently, and where you project public works? And when you talk about vehicles, what are we talking trash trucks? Are we talking snow plows? Also related to public works, since it was sort of an opportunity that arose, as you've indicated, it would seem to indicate that there would also have been a fallback plan for public works, since that needs to be moved. And what is that fallback plan? And does this automatically eliminate that as a plan?
So a couple questions. Again, it's all conjecture, but where we think Public Works might go, it's closest to West Road, but besides the property buffer, it has the whole 18th fairway and what is the driving range between it, and then again the topography kind of goes down, so we think it would be buried. No, way down where the driving, I don't know if you're familiar with the course, but where the driving range currently is, on the opposite side of the 18th fairway, that's where we think Public Works might fit, a couple acres buried down there because the topography goes way down, and so we think it'd be pretty easy to buffer. The vehicles you're talking about, besides the pickup trucks and trucks that go out every day, it's mostly what's stored. And we have a lot of trucks in Public Works, but most of them are stored 95% of the time because they're only used for snow plowing. So we also are looking at a couple other options around the town that maybe, again, because we're spread out over 12.5 miles, maybe a couple locations for storage might work, plus it might lessen the need to use the land here. So we're still looking at those options. I will tell you shamefully that we never had a real fallback position for Public Works when redevelopment was approved in 2006. A lot of us just envisioned it far in the future and someone will deal with it. Not great planning, but the reality is we're at the point now where we have to figure that out.
That's my follow-up question. So my follow-up question is understanding that if this is approved with a lot of kind of hanging unknowns, but it would become the property owned by the township to decide. Looking ahead to the future, does that give any future administration of the township the opportunity to completely reimagine how to use the property, or will some of this be protected off this plan?
Great question, and I apologize for not being clear about that. Once you apply to Green Acres, and if Green Acres were to approve it, so again, hypothetically, we carve out the lower 15, 18 acres along Northfield for development, and we apply for Green Acres for the rest. Once Green Acres approved that, that land's protected forever. So it wouldn't matter if it was a mayor 10 years from now or 50 years from now, the land's protected.
Gary Van Wyck, 71 Burnett Terrace. Relating to the previous question, what legal guarantees are there that between approving the bond issue, which you're requesting now, and the actual submission to Green Acres, that the plan that you've mentioned doesn't change? In other words, that the 20 acres carved out on Northfield are somehow clarified on a map as part of the bond issue request, and that the land that's to be preserved is also, clearly specified on the map.
So any application to Green Acres and even a plan always has to be approved here by council. So the application to Green Acres will be approved by council. So the council's involvement in this process doesn't end with the approval of a bond. Anything we go moving forward would have to be approved by council. So if we ended up submitting an application to the council that called for a development of 90 acres, I'm pretty sure the council would approve that. So anything we would go moving forward would ultimately need legislative approval.
Sorry, my issue with that really is that to get the bond approved, you need 4 votes. To get an alteration to any kind of plan that you've suggested tonight, you would only need 3 votes. That's a different, burden.
That obviously says you don't trust me, I guess. You're not the only one in the room, so it's all good. I can only give you my word as a gentleman that the administration wants to minimize development as much as possible to preserve as much land as possible, because the more land we can preserve, the more golf becomes viable, the more recreational space and open space becomes viable.
I think if you could give us the legal guarantees, I think a lot of people would be much happier with that. Is there a legal stratagem you can use to bake that in?
Not into the bond issue. The council collectively as a body can always put a condition to the administration saying that don't come back to us with anything that asks for 80 acres development, but I don't know that that would even be legally binding. So you'd have to take the administration's word and ultimately the council's word on whether or not, if in fact they approve this, that's what they're going to commit to.
Marcy DiGatano, 6 Connell Drive, the noisemaker of Facebook, and the ankle biter for you. So I have a couple of problems with this just in general. There are 4 golf courses locally that you could have done some financial analysis to say, what is the ratio between 9 holes and 18 holes? Personally, not a golf person. I don't want to watch it. I want no part of it, but it does give me some time alone. My husband goes and plays. There are plenty of places, or there's plenty of, I would assume, golf courses that have sophisticated computer systems that are able to easily print out what the 9-hole versus 18 holes would be, right? This is not something that would take any significant time. A simple Google search will yield that information. There are 22 between parks, recreation, rec centers, walking paths, open space, ... What is the profitability of those recreational centers that you want to build another one? Is that going to cannibalize South Mountain? What will the impact to this new recreational facility do to the South Mountain Arena? And then obviously the Turtleback Zoo and the tree type climbing thing and so forth. Then you mentioned something about 175 houses or affordable housing. Great, listen, I would like an affordable house, right? So who does that actually go to? Because if it's going to go to our seniors, we should know that it's going to go to our seniors. Because I don't think that our senior community are going to pump out a bunch of kids to overburden our school systems, right? But then you're talking about, if it's a private development, 20 to 30 large homes. Well, statistics also shows that the amount of people who are having children nowadays has drastically declined, right? So I think that prior to coming here with all the what ifs and maybes, a little bit of due diligence behind that would have made me feel a little bit more comfortable, which it doesn't. And then secondly, great, you're going to go to RFP, and I'm sure that there's a ton of people trying to bid on this job, but then what type of enhanced due diligence are you going to do to make sure, or the council is going to do, to make sure that there is no relationships, family ties, et cetera, and bloodlines, that the bids are fair and equal?
Well, a couple questions there. So first of all, you mentioned a lot of golf courses. There's only one public golf course. So the other golf courses along this region are private. They're under no obligation to provide data to us at all, nor will they, quite frankly. What we did do was researched other golf courses operated by public entities, and there's a lot of them. So we do have some data, but most importantly, data from Union County, Hudson County, isn't always going to be great for us. So what we like about this idea is we then have 2 years to get our own data. And keep in mind, and I should have said this earlier, the reason we want to get an operator in there only for 2 years, not only is it to generate a couple dollars and to see if there's interest in golf, but perhaps the most important issue is it preserves it as a golf course. It takes a significant amount of money chemicals, time, and effort to maintain fairways and greens. If that property were to be left empty for 2 years while we're all trying to figure out what to do with it, it'll cost you 3 times to bring back those fairways and greens as viable greens and fairways. So that's more important in these next 2 years, even than determining the interest. In fact, though we always want to balance money, my personal position is that I don't even care if we make money the first 2 years, because if we can get a sense of absolute interest in a public golf course, as well as keeping it a golf course and preserving the fairways and greens, that's almost the priority. To maintain it as a golf course while we figure out the bigger picture. In terms of the housing, and perhaps I misspoke, it is the administration's intention, subject ultimately to community and council support, that any development there would only be age restricted. It would be an adult, active community to tie in and be complementary to the golfing component. As far as the recreation center, again, perhaps I misspoke. The recreation center, we think, with strong support from our rec director and recreation staff, is not anything similar to what's at the South Mountain Recreation Complex. We're talking about an indoor turfed field for our lacrosse programs, our soccer programs, our football programs. So this would not be anything that is consistent with the South Mountain Recreation Complex. And quite frankly, it would be nice to generate revenue, but we don't build parks for our kids to be profitable. So we don't see the recreation complex component to this as being a profit center. We think it's important and a great amenity for our kids for now and into the future, and if it generates some money, great. But that's not necessarily a priority for that.
Hey man, John Carlo, 17 Lowell. You're moving pretty quickly on this, and I give you a lot of credit for it. I don't think it's a good idea, and I do hope the council votes no. And my issue is, you're moving quickly in 2 months to get this done. It's been 14 months, and the first responders don't have a contract. That's the issue.
Actually, our fire unions have agreed to a contract. I appreciate your point, but any government has a lot of priorities. And with all due respect, police and fire are not the only priorities. And why we're moving fast is because this property is privately owned, and they want to sell it. They decided to sell it. So we could sit around for 8 months and talk about it. It'll be sold by then. And that, to me, creates a bigger problem.
So then, the answer is one more question. So then are we going to have a senior council for the new 175 new over 55 residents that will be potentially coming into this community?
I don't know what you mean by that.
So we're not going to have any type of like senior council, senior advocacies?
You want to bring up the campaign, that's fine. I can tell you my position has not changed. I don't support a senior advisory committee. The council does. That's the council's fault.
I'm a physician. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a lawyer.
Name
I
and
don't
address.
understand a lot of things.
Name and
My name is Dr. Manki Kar. I live right off of that property in the other section of it. My question is, what is the impact of all this on real estate taxes in our area?
So it's hard to say in an area specifically. I can tell you, as I tried to lay out, in the short term, doing this would cost the township money. In the long term, we would, I don't want to say make money, we would make money. So again, if you look at it strictly from a financial, from a tax perspective, what's in the best interest of the community from a tax perspective would be for the Montclair Country Club to sell the property and let someone build 1,200 homes. We don't think that's in the township's best interest overall. So we think this approach balances a lot of different perspectives and addresses a lot of different priorities.
So long term, the taxes will go down?
Ultimately, if
Not in New Jersey.
taxes never go down. Taxes will never go down. But this property won't cost the township money. In fact, it will generate, if you really want to talk about generating property taxes, it will generate more money in the long term than it does currently under a new scenario. And yet, it's still only.
Peggy Gross, 15 Elmcourt Way. I had two questions. One, regarding the RFP for 2 years. What happens after that? Do we, if they like them, the same person continues to operate it, or does it go up for bid over and over, or what? And the other question is regarding the house. Once you sell it, with the presumed restriction that it's an adult community, is there an assurance going forward that it would remain that, and that it would, the private owner then wouldn't sell it for something else?
So we think, again, the RFP would be for 2 years to give us that window to see what's in the township's best interest. If we find that maybe we can't agree on a plan, maybe things change and we all say it should just be 18 holes, maybe because we find that an 18-hole public golf course, another one in town, is hugely successful, we can just renew the contract or just RFP for a longer period to maintain it as a golf course. We think, again, the 2 years just gives us the window to kind of come up with these decisions. As far as the... Again, I don't know that business, and despite her allegations, none of us have family members. That's ultimately for the legal department to discern anyway. So, based on the people we've heard from, there would be interest. It is, and again, I don't know a ton of golf courses. It's a beautiful golf course, and you're talking about a private country club level golf course that's now going to be a public course. So the golf operators believe that's a huge potential for popularity. So they're all interested. They haven't seen the RFP yet. Maybe they look at the RFP and say, we're not interested, but we've heard a ton of interest. So we believe there'll be interest to operate for 2 years. As far as the resident, I'm sorry, go ahead.
My implication is that they would want more than 2 years. They would want to be leaving after 2 years.
If they're making money, yeah. As far as the housing goes, one of the nice things about controlling this, again, compared to a private developer, even if it ended up in court, they're going to dictate what they're going to build. If the township is to buy this property and carve out the piece ourselves, and we create the zone, this then doesn't become a planning board application, doesn't become a zoning board application. The council would create the overlay zone. So if we were to sell it and advertise it as a land for sale, the conditions of that property are going to be outlined in that proposal. It's going to say very specifically, no variances, 175 units or 150 units, whatever we ultimately decide. Senior units, period. So it's going to control that process a little bit more than if a developer were to buy the land from the club and then force a large-scale residential complex down our throat, even through legal action.
And I just, I'm Carol Mann, and 5200 Cliff Terrace South. Selling the land to large development will inevitably have lawsuits on the part of the town, which will cost the town money in addition to, just wanted to point that out. So.
Excuse me, Mayor. Mayor, just anyone coming up to ask a question, could you please state your name, spell your name, and your address so the town clerk and the council members can get the information? Thank you very much.
David Humer, Humer, 26 Nelson Place, Maplewood. I just wanted to bring a detail to the mayor and council's attention that among the assets you would be acquiring are 2 platform tennis courts. This is a terrific municipal amenity. Maplewood has 2 courts. South Orange has 2 courts that they may be giving up. Burnage Township, Glen Ridge, a couple places in Bergen County. It is a lifelong sport. It is a winter outdoor sport. We have already approached, when I say we, a group of people who play in Maplewood, South Orange, already approached Montclair Golf Club to buy these paddle tennis courts. So if you decide you do not want this to be part of your recreation plan, we're happy to purchase them.
Thank you. Sorry for asking the same question, but what do you foresee with the clubhouse, which if Bill Tyer has a view, patent the 9 West Road, what do you foresee with that, and the pool, which is, I think, fantastic. I think it's beautiful.
So admittedly, on the pool, you know, a couple steps down the road, we really don't know. We have a wonderful town pool that we allocate a lot of resources for, take great pride in. We have no interest in second municipal pool, although I know a lot of residents don't agree with that. As far as the clubhouse, that would be part of the operation. So presumably, an operator is going to want to use the clubhouse for outings. I think in talking with some operators that any long-term vision for more serious kind of banquet operations might need to invest in the hall itself. But certainly in the short term, this contract would include the banquet facility for outings, for lunch, for however it is they want to structure a deal ultimately.
Hello, Tez Roro, 24 Hutton, RORO. So the two main things to approve today for the town council are the land and the bond, right? And from the presentation, I appreciate a lot of the discussions with different officials and a lot of the data collected in such a short time. For me, I'm trying to reconcile in my head, I recognize the sense of urgency not being sold to private developers. However, I'm a planner, so my mind is thinking, so once this thing gets approved, then what, right? So we understand there's a 2-year period to work out, and there's the grant. So really the main things are the grant and potentially slicing off some land and selling. So for some reason, if we don't get the grant or if things don't go as planned, so let's play worst case scenario, then what happens? I think that would give a lot of people maybe peace of mind.
So here is sometimes, and a lot of times the public doesn't want to hear it, but government is not in the business for profit. You know, I tell people all the time, snow plowing, huge loser as a profit center. Garbage collection, huge loser profit center. We're not in the profit business. So if in fact we buy this property with the interest of preservation and ultimately potential, that's the primary goal. If we find for whatever reason we can't get Green Acres funding, it'd be frustrating, but we're not going to give up on 138 acres of potential parkland and recreational space for the community. So we believe we have a realistic, without being overly aggressive, path to pay for this in full within 8 years. If, however, we don't, we still have 138 acres of land that would have been a huge development otherwise. So I don't want to say that we just write it off, but that's a huge amount of land that can still provide great potential for generations to come. So I don't want, and candidly, I wouldn't want the council to approve it only on the basis of us getting our money back in a few years. That's not always the goal for government. This is a case where we can preserve a huge piece of land, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, more than twice the amount of land we've ever preserved in the last 15 years. It's a unique opportunity. We think we can pay it back quickly and create a plan that can generate more tax revenue than it does now, but that's not the only objective. In some cases, government's not always focused on being profitable as it is being a service to the community.
Good luck.
Thank you so much. Michaela Bennett, 35 Old Indian Road. So, Mayor, you spent an inordinate amount of time working on this, and I commend you for that because it's an opportunity, to be considered. I would just ask you how you came by your bond counsel and how it's not a conflict for bond counsel to also be on the planning board.
Well, I certainly don't want to penalize someone who's a resident who serves on the planning board. He's from Wilentz, which is a hugely respected in this entire region firm. And quite honestly, it's not a conflict because, as I mentioned, if the township were to buy this property and ultimately develop a plan, there's nothing to go before the planning board. It's all going to be settled here. So there's no conflict. In fact, we thought it was more appropriate that our existing bond counsel not be the bond counsel for fear of a conflict. So we asked Wilentz and Everton to do the bond work.
Good evening, Mayor, and good evening, Council. My name is Will Nestor at 28 Rock Spring Road, last name Nestor. Mayor, you opened your presentation with a discussion about attracting young families, and I just wanted to say that we're a young family that recently moved to the area. We did so because our trust in the Mayor's office and of the Council, and I can say with confidence it's one of the best decisions we've made, and thank you for your great leadership and for putting forth this proposal, which we have a lot of faith in as well and we support. In discussing how the project would proceed forward, there's essentially two phases, a 2-year phase and then the phase after that. I was wondering if consideration had been given to streets like ours, Rock Spring Road, which are very small, and I'm not sure they're necessarily designed to accommodate the type of traffic that we would envision as a successful project, even during the first 2-year phase. And it's not just Rock Spring Road, there's other roads that I think are represented in the room as well. That's my question, has consideration been given to traffic on those roads in the first 2 years?
So we kind of thought we were giving consideration by saying we would never use those roads as access points, we would use Northfield. So we recognize that Rock Spring absorbs the traffic and has since 1925 as a country club, and that golf operations would probably be consistent, similar type traffic. But any more aggressive use to the property, we believe we should not enter off of Walker or off of Rock Spring, but to stay down off of Northfield. So we think we were giving consideration to those neighborhoods by trying to eliminate the fear that every one of us rightfully has when you're talking about additional traffic. So we think as a golf operations, it would be similar traffic to what you're used to, but that anything more aggressive, we would move to Northfield Avenue and keep off the residential roads.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Steve Burns, 24 Witt Place in West Orange. I want to commend the mayor and his team. I think this is a terrific plan. I'd like to tell you why. I've known the Rock Spring property. I was a member there for a number of years. I'm no longer. But I know the property well and believe that a developer coming in could do any number of things. Yes, it may take a number of years, but God knows what could happen when that really happens. I think your plan of taking 2 years, maybe I would have asked for 3, but I think taking the time to get control of the land now so that you can make decisions such as that you're doing right now, I think is a very strong, prudent, and sober mood in terms of going forward so that you can make the right decisions and the council can make the right decisions on behalf of the town, on behalf of the taxpayers. I think it's very strong. So I wish you very much success. I think it's a great plan. Thank you for taking the leadership.
Thank you. Tom Hotzen, 9 Elf Road. Mayor, I just want to follow up with what Steve said. I want to commend you for your vision and thank you for your vision in going forth with this plan. It is a beautiful piece of property that if that was left to 1,000 condo units, would just be a terrible waste of the property. And I think once the town gets the chance to experience the beauty of that property, which I advocated for several years when Rock Spring was struggling to open it up as a semi-private course, which is probably its best use. And I think you're going to find that it's going to get a lot of use and people are really, really going to appreciate it. So again, I commend you and I thank you for moving forward with this plan. And I would hope the council seems to vote yes on this.
Liana DeChico, Undercliff Terrace South. I'm just going to piggyback off of my neighbors here. You had talked about bringing young families into West Orange. I am a young family. I moved into West Orange within the past year. I moved here for 3 reasons: diversity, the community, the schools, and land, space. I moved here from New York. People come here for space. This is invaluable. This is an opportunity for West Orange's future. This is to attract families that we want here, to see the kind of growth and the development that we're looking to achieve. I can tell you that if I was looking to buy a house here, which took me a year to get, it was very difficult. If I was looking to buy a house here and I had seen 1,200 units, there is no way I would have come to West Orange. There are other options. But this was the best town for me and my family. It is the best thing we've ever done. We are obsessed with being here. It is amazing. And really, thank you so much for the work that you're doing and to try to protect this land.
Lois Reichert, Main Street. I have a question. I thought this was zoned for 2-acre lots. Where do we get 1,200 units?
It is. Unfortunately, first of all, there's very few neighborhoods in town with 2-acre zoning. Long Park, I think, even might have 2 acres, maybe more than that. So though it's zoned 2 acres, and that was part of the master plan revision in 2010 to prepare for the possibility that a golf course might fail financially someday. However, in the real world, it's not realistic to think any developer is going to buy it as 2-acre zoning. They're going to buy it, and maybe it takes 2 years, maybe it takes 3, maybe it takes 5. They're going to ultimately win in court to get a much denser development. Now, whether or not it's similar to other lawsuits around the state where they're meeting the affordable housing obligations that all the towns have, and West Orange has a significant affordable housing obligations, or if it's some other premise similar to the West Essex Highlands, which we are currently, after 20 years, literally 20 years of litigation, we are close to resolving that on what is 1 acre zoning, and I can tell you it's not going to be built as 1 acre zoning. So the zoning was put in place as part of a master plan revision, but in the real world, the developer is not going to buy it as 2 acre zoning. They're going to buy it, and they're going to wear us down in court until ultimately a judge decides that they can build a significant number of units, similar to what's happening currently in Lakewood and some of those other courses I mentioned, and any number of locations in this entire region of the country.
I got Terry Cunningham, 6 West Road, West Orange. Mayor, I support the 2 comments that were just made by my colleagues, Steve Burns and Tom Wilson. Fantastic job. I think this is a special piece of property that comes along, maybe as you said, once in a lifetime. It's not Baltusrol, you know, it's not Ridgewood, as they say, it's not this, but we don't want it to be, you know. I sent out a little information before about the write-up it received in New Jersey Magazine, New Jersey Golfers Magazine, referring it to one of New Jersey's hidden gems, and that's the way the people from Rock Spring feel about this course. Not only we enjoy playing it and have a good time doing it, but we love it. And I think that preserving it the way you're planning and doing it is the best thing we can do for this property. And in closing, I'd like to say, believe it or not, I had some time on Sunday, so I took a walk around the community, and I rang a lot of doorbells and talked to people about exactly doing this. And I'd just like to give you, for the record, 75 signatures that I got that day of people supporting exactly what we're planning on doing, and feel very strongly about keeping this golf course the way we're proposing to do it. So, appreciate it very much. And one last thing for clarification, you did mention muni in the word before, right? It's going to be municipal owned, but it's not a muni golf course. Right, okay.
My name is Jim Hall. I live at 14 Hillcrest Avenue, and I just wanted to echo some of what my friend said, but with a slightly different twist. I think I'm excited about this plan. I think it can be a very good plan. There might be some issues that I'd like to change again in 3 years, but the most important thing I think that everybody in this room needs to realize is that the alternative is a disaster. Okay, we're not just keeping a nice golf course. We're preventing a huge, horrible development where we all live around it. It's going to be years of litigation. By the way, once that property gets bought, they're not going to operate as a golf course, so it's going to lie fallow. You're going to have grass growing feet high. Who knows what will happen to the lake up there? then you're going to have years of construction on that site. They're going to have to cut, entrances on perhaps Walker. And I know a bunch of folks who live near me met last night, and I can tell you that it is absolutely unanimous that we need to support this plan. Councilman Krakowiak was there with us last night, and I thank him for being there, and I think he can tell you that he heard that every single person that lives in close vicinity to this golf course absolutely supports this plan, because the alternative is disaster.
Congratulations then for your plan. To understand this more correctly, 2-acre lots are too large. They proposed 1-acre lots or maybe some other size. What is your ultimate number for us to take back home?
So again, the property's currently zoned as 2-acre lots, meaning, let's even forget the whole idea of a dense residential community. If the council decides this is not in the town's best interest, Montclair Country Club is going to put it on the market and they're going to sell it. And a developer, if in fact they wanted to build on 2-acre lots, large homes, they can start almost immediately with only site plan approval. They would need very few approvals to construct roughly 60 homes on the entire property. So that could happen almost immediately. However, I don't think it's realistic to think a developer is going to buy the property to build on 2 acres lots. First of all, there's very little 2-acre zoning in the entire community other than in a few sections and in the Long Park. So they're going to proceed to court, and whether it takes 5 or 6 years, they're eventually going to prevail on a very dense residential project. So if you're asking what the township would prefer, we prefer we buy the property and not have any development unless we decide to carve out a piece of the property to develop. We don't think selling it, whether or not someone wants to come in and build on 2-acre lots or even down the road for a much denser project, we don't believe any development that completely decimates the entire property is in the community's best interest, ever.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, Mayor Parisi, thank you very much. Sorry? Mayor Parisi, thank you very much. I appreciate also the numerous questions, very basic and fundamental questions that were asked tonight. It's very good. This is the way we should operate. Are there any questions from my council colleagues to the mayor or what? Well, I was going to then open it up to public comment. I mean, while the mayor's here. I mean, so.
That was public comment.
Didn't we just have public comment?
Okay, fine. Mayor, okay,
We
fine.
should do our discussion.
Okay.
When we do the
Okay.
resolution.
Okay, I didn't close public comment, so, okay, so now we have public comment on Rock Spring. So is anybody from the general public?
But we just did.
Right, well, no, I'm just giving everybody the opportunity, because everybody had questions, it's fine, that's why I did the questions. But just want to make sure. So now, I'm going to close public comment, and do my colleagues have any question? Too late. Come on up, sir.
Okay. Just stay there? Yeah, go.
No.
Here you go. The mayor's coming to you.
Thank you. My name is Mark Rosenberg. I live at 6 Fernwood Circle. Like a lot of people in here, my wife and I moved here less than a year ago. We moved from South Orange, so we're very happy to be here. Also co-chair of the Rock Spring community group up off on Rock Spring. And we are in favor of this plan. We are very happy that the course remains a course and that it actually is preserved in the long term. I have a number of items that I won't go through right now, but I'll be happy to leave them with the group. The one item that we just had a question, there's an existing liquor license, I think, right now on the course. Whether or not that would remain in place as an amenity, I think would be interesting.
Great question. I should have mentioned that, sorry. So the property does have a liquor license on it. This is not part of the sale. The club can retain that liquor license and sell it on the market if they want to. If we, in fact, approve this purchase and obviously want a liquor license tied to a golf course, as a public entity, we can simply create one for ourselves, so we don't need to buy it and spend more money.
There you go. Thank you, Mayor. Public comment. So is good.
Good answer.
Good question. Okay. All right. Thank you. Public comment is closed. Now I open the floor and the mayor and administration to my council colleagues. Councilwoman Castellino.
Okay. Mayor, as I've been saying the past couple weeks, I don't know how you've been sleeping at night. Very creative thought process, and appreciate all the due diligence.
Sorry.
Past couple weeks, I've been asking numerous comments, and we have many materials here that I've been going through with the administration, Mr. Sayers and Mr. Gross. I have to thank you as well for answering our comments. The debt service on this, once this goes through, I believe the state mandate is for us not to be over 3.5. I think after this bond is issued, we're still at 1.5, Mr. Gross? Less than 1.5%? Okay, so we're well under the state mandate, recommendation, I should say, not a mandate.
Yes, the limitation is 3.5%.
Yeah, 3.5%. So we're still way under our debt ratio, which is a positive. Not that we want to increase it, But again, now my question for you, if you do wind up moving Public Works, and this may be a question for when you start down the road, but we ran the numbers at 9.2 to move it, and if it only costs you, say, let's, for argument's sakes, $5 million to build it there, would you apply the $4 million left over from that amount to pay down the bond? And
Councilwoman, is this mic on? Can you hear me? Sorry. So that's a good point. I should have maybe been clear of that with the presentation. Our numbers and our 8-year analysis does not include the Public Works money. I don't want to say that's kind of a bonus, but that's kind of a bonus. That's not in our formula. So if you, in fact, factor that in, it would enable us to pay it down sooner. What the administration actually has been pondering is that if we, in fact, want to build a recreation component on this property, we can use that leftover $4 million for that. So it is not in the table of paying down the bond, but if you factor that in, it actually gets us to pay down the bond even quicker, probably within 6 years as opposed to 8.
Yeah. You know,
and I just, if I could, Councilwoman, because I think you raised a good point, and I'm thinking a lot of members of the public might not know what you were talking about in terms of debt ratio. The state says you can only have total debt equal to 3.5% of your total assessed value. Even after this bond and adding $12 million, we'd still only be at 1.5%. Half of what the state recommendation is. So I'm not minimizing debt. None of us should carry a lot of debt, and neither should a government. But even with adding $12 million in debt, we're still less than half of what the state says you can incur in total debt as a percentage of assessed valuation.
Thank you. In regards to, I know it's another case of litigation with Essex Highland, would it be beneficial to have Ms. Bishop at your February 27th meeting to maybe answer any questions of what could happen?
We
with, you know, if it was to go that route, or you know, just
executive session.
Okay. I look forward to other discussions. I'll be supportive of this evening. It's been a lot of reading, a lot of due diligence on our part, very creative way to look at a valuable piece of property. For those who are in doubt of or haven't seen the property, I'm glad that you are having it at Rock Spring so people could appreciate the views. Coming from a husband who is out all the time golfing as well. A lot of Sunday afternoons to myself. It's kind of quiet around my house. But, you know, the phone, you know, just family members, we're a big golfer family, and just family members and friends of family just calling and inquiring because, you know, I see this being a great potential, operational potential. Again, you had a private club that had very private fees to join, and now you're opening up to golfers. My husband's one of those golfers that travels throughout the state to go to various public clubs where he can play, and so this gives a great opportunity. The views alone, I know the PL is looking forward to maybe a golf tournament there this year, maybe, or...
Councilwoman, you make another good point, and again, I should have mentioned this during the presentation. Bill Keogh and Edwin in the rec department, they host 4 senior citizen golf outings a year, and our clubs in town have always been very cooperative. This would enable us to have one at a significantly discounted price compared to the escalating prices that the country clubs charge. So besides organizations like PAL, we have golf outings the town has run for decades that we now might have a home for Billy, and I'm sure he's already thought about that, to run.
Our firefighters, and you touched base before in regards to recreational facilities. Indoor turf field is something that is those bubbles that are desperately needed with all the athletes that we have in the township. And you know I was one of those parents back in the couple years back that traveled up to Randolph to Indoor Sports Pavilion, traveled to Mount Olive to Center Court Sports. So they're popping up all over the place. So a lot of good opportunity. I look forward to future discussions, but as far as immediate purchase, I think it makes sense to keep it in our control. And I'm glad to hear tonight that the neighborhoods did come out surrounding it. I like that Walker Road is protected and all the surrounding communities, that we could protect Rock Spring Road. And again, there's a lot to consider and a lot of questions I've already asked and been answered. So I'm good as far as analysis. I appreciate the presentation because I think you really broke it down well for the public, judging by the questions as well. And I look forward to your meeting on the 27th for more questions. So folks, please just email us. If you didn't want to get up tonight and ask a question, email us, let us know how you feel. That's what we're here. We're trying to, you know, if we feel the benefit, we want to also hear if you're concerned or what the benefits may be that we might have missed this evening. So, Council President,
Thank you.
that's all I'm going to say
Thank
for
you,
this evening
Councilwoman.
about it. I'll pass along to my colleagues.
Thank you, Councilwoman Castellino. Councilwoman Matupran.
We're not talking about resolutions right now, just public comment.
No, this is just your response to the public comment or questions for the mayor.
Okay, I'm going to start with public comment. First, for everyone who took the time to come out and sit in this heat right now, thank you so very much. To our emergency service personnel, thank you for being here. Thank you for everything that you do. I support, hopefully, a fair and speedy resolution to your contract. It's absolutely necessary, particularly since we're developing so much and we need to make sure that we have and maintain the safety and security of what West Orange is and what we love about it. I, too, am excited about the prospect of this. I do have concerns that I've shared with the mayor, and it's something that we'll discuss while we go through the resolutions, but it is a tremendous opportunity. But with that tremendous opportunity comes great risk to us all because there's nothing that is guaranteed, obviously. There's a lot of assumptions on the pro forma that we received and you should have received in the agenda packet that's online. So I look forward to continuing to have that discussion. And my question to you, Mr. Mayor, and you and I discussed this over the weekend. I know that there were discussions with the county executive, as you expressed to everyone. If at this point the county executive was willing to come back to the table, and I say this because with a larger concern, if we do not get the funding from Green Acres, and you know, it's obviously going to take us longer to pay that debt down in more than 8 years, and add a burden to all of our tax dollars because we all live here, is that something that you would be willing to entertain?
I don't know, having gone through a lot of this process already, I don't know at this point that we would, because the county executive, to his credit, made it very clear that he was only interested if it maintained as an 18-hole golf course. And as you and I talked about, I tried to touch upon in the presentation, though that's great for a lot of reasons, it's not great for a lot of reasons. If the county were to operate that as an 18-hole golf course, and I have no doubt that the county executive would do a great job at it, as everything he's done with our county parks has been spectacular, it's a great amenity for the county. It's not a great amenity for the township. We lose the tax revenue with never a chance to regain it, and unless our residents play golf, they never get to enjoy the property. So the county executive, as I mentioned earlier, was incredibly cooperative throughout this entire process. I can't tell you how many calls he got on, how many meetings he attended. He was engaged and gave careful consideration to this. But in the end, I don't want to say it's not good for the town, but it's not good for the town for this to be county property. It's just my opinion. Ultimately, these decisions lie with the council, but at a great loss of tax revenue and no benefit to our residents unless they play golf, I don't see that as a win to the community.
So I'll just follow up by stating that I do have it on good source that he would be interested in having a conversation. Now, the only reason I'm asking if the township would be willing to go back is that if we can save, you know, some money, and there are arrangements that can be made, I think that that's something that we owe it to the residents and ourselves to look into. So I'm hopeful that it is something that you will consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Yeah, yes, Councilwoman Castellino.
I apologize. I just wanted to ask one, I didn't realize we were having all our comments now. We were close wrapping up because in regards to, and again, thank you to our firefighters and our police force for coming down. I do want to ask when we go into executive session if you could just give us an update on what has occurred so we could have a conversation and get updated from recent. I didn't realize we had 2 settlements, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman McCartney.
Okay, thank you. So thank you really, everyone. Mayor, thank you for this thorough presentation this evening, and for everyone that's coming out. The overwhelming support in this room is so hopeful for this opportunity. It's such a unique opportunity. I also wanted to mention that the Open Space Commission unanimously submitted a letter. It's on our agenda, a letter of recommendation that was unanimously voted for their support. So if this is acquired, that would be added to our open space inventory. I like that you broke down the perspectives, the financial. Of course, we're all concerned about the tax implications, the financial perspective, recreation, housing, and preservation, of course. There were so many. I know Ms. Reichert and Mr. Hall, I think. There were just so many people that were talking about zoning. So from a planning perspective, we've seen this on other applications where we have to weigh what's before us. You're saying 60 homes. There were projections of 1,200 and all different numbers, and we're seeing that in other municipalities. But from a planning perspective, we have to weigh that, what's in front of us and what we can preserve. And even in our master plan, we talk about clustering homes, which is what developers do in their applications. And that always comes. So yes, we're preserving property, but we are also allowing a bonus density. So these projections are here. We don't really know what those numbers can be. So I like the fact that though it's not a plan, the idea of a senior home or something that has so little impact on the land and on the schools just makes good sense. And I know there's no plan, but that's something to consider.
But about that, because I mentioned earlier, I've always been of the opinion that we should always strive to be desirable to young families.
Of course.
So I'm not singling out schools or young families on this project. It's simply the administration's belief that, first of all, we have a couple other projects happening out there that are most likely going to have an impact on schools. So this one is completely unexpected, so why add another one? But more importantly, we believe that an active adult, 55 and older community is more complementary to a golfing and recreation community than necessarily otherwise. So that's why we believe that. And in consideration of traffic, we all know traffic is a burden in this community. We believe that an adult community, assuming there would be a higher percentage of those retired than a not adult community, would at least minimize the additional traffic to Northfield Avenue. So for a lot of reasons, we just think that adult community is better as part of this plan than otherwise.
I tend to agree. I was also surprised to see the 8-year projection. I didn't really expect to see that in such a short turnaround.
Well, it was originally a 3-year projection.
Well.
So we originally mistakenly assumed that Green Acres would pay it all at once. We found out that they would only pay in $750,000 increments. So the original projections was a 3-year payout until we found out it would take much longer than that for Green Acres to fully fund.
I was under the understanding that with the Green Acres, though, even without a plan, that you can still submit. I thought there were two-step process, that even without a plan, you can submit, and then we could carve out.
There was a lot of discussion, and again, the people of this administration have worked tirelessly on this. That included a ton of phone calls with our grant writer and with Green Acres themselves, and late on Friday, it was determined where we were pretty comfortable with the answer that you really can't until you finalize the plan. So it probably will delay that a year or two, but pending, if in fact council decides to approve this, with council's help and community's help, the administration's intention is to work on a plan immediately.
Yeah, great. So again, I thank everyone for their overwhelming support, not only here, but on social media. Also, the emails I've received, the phone calls we've been making and received. I think everyone understands that it's a unique opportunity that we could take advantage of. In your presentation, you said that it would be zero impact tax implication for the first year, and that I go back to our CFO, that we do have a financial analysis. Can you talk about what that looks like for the second year?
Well,
Per household.
Yeah, in terms of the budgetary impact on this in the second year, you're looking...
Mr. Gross, speaking to the microphone, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
The budgetary impact on this for the average household in the second year is about $49.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman McCartney. I have to, the thing is, I have to go out of order because I recognize Mr. Puglisi from the Office of the County Executive. Usually he makes comments, so with everybody's diligence, I'd like to, if Mr. Puglisi has anything to say? Nope? Okay. Then I'll, okay. Okay. Going on. I'd like to, the general public, your questions were phenomenal. They were well thought out, and that's the way communication between government and our residents should be. Back to our first responders, you have no bigger fan than myself. I can only speak for myself. I believe that you give a great service to the community, that without your services and your dedication and your support, we couldn't be the good town that we are. And I believe in you. And hopefully when we go through the contractual and we look at and everything else, we will make sure it's fair for everybody all around. But you're not, we don't discourage you and we don't put you, we believe you're as much a part of the community as those of us who live here and those of us who work here, and that's important to all of us. So I thank you. On to Rock Spring. Residents of West Orange, my friends, and I've walked the neighborhoods, I've gotten numerous emails, numerous phone calls. I get mobbed on the shuttle bus every day, coming and going, saying, Jerry, you know, we need to do this. This is an opportunity to set West Orange's manifest destiny. This is an opportunity to control the growth of our great township. This is an opportunity for the residents and the government to come together to make a decision that will not only benefit us now, 5 years, 10 years, but 20 to 40, 30, you know, 30, 40, 50 years down to road. And that's the way you have to look at this. If we move this forward, I recommend each and one of you. Thank you. Such consideration. If we move this forward and the meeting is held, of course, at Rock Spring, I recommend and I encourage all residents to attend that meeting with your questions. Sit down, carefully write out your questions, think it thoroughly through, because your questions are important, because not only are there questions that you need answers to, but they're questions that the administration and the Township Council needs information. The tax implication, any tax increase is a burden, but then again, we're not talking significant. We're not talking about putting the township in significant bind of obligation and burden of debt. In the long run, you have to look at what it will deliver to the township, of how you will market the township of West Orange, that we have our own golf course, that people living in the area, particularly where the golf course is located, I can assume the property values will increase. How would you like just to be able to own a home and walk to your golf course? I mean, people would love to live here. Talking about affordable housing, of course, those inputs will be important. But you have to look at the thing is, this is manifest destiny. This is how you, the residents, and we, the council and the administration, will decide how West Orange grows in the future and how people will look at the township of West Orange. It's not, you know, you gotta sometimes take the personal out of it and out of your consideration and think about every resident, not just yourself, but think about every resident. And that's what I hear every day on the shuttle. That's what I hear every day when I walk up and down the neighborhoods, that people feel this is a good thing. And I'm glad to hear that. I've heard some negatives. I've heard some concerns. We all have concerns. but you have to have positive concerns. And as my colleagues have said, if you have additional questions, please email us. Reach out to us. Don't just sit back and you know, and complain. Send us an email. Touch base with us. We want to hear exactly how you feel, and we can answer your questions. And I guarantee you I'll answer your questions. But you have to look back at what we're doing. Keep the personal out of it. Look at it as a total community. What we're going to leave to our children and grandchildren and future generations of West Orange. There are many golf courses owned by municipalities. I mean, Summit runs a 9-hole golf course, and I hear it's successful. I don't have numbers in front of me, so I'm not going to guarantee what the comment was. That's what I got from one of their committee people. I think it was good that you all came out tonight. I appreciate the decorum and your honesty and your opinions, but think about other questions, and if we move this forward, please make sure that you become an active, positive part of the destiny of the Township of West Orange. Councilman Kukoviac.
Thank you, Council President. Mayor, as always, you are a great presenter and a great speaker, and really appreciate you coming and telling the full story here. I just wanted to follow up with some of the things were said tonight and previously, just so I can get clarity on this. One of the issues that seems to be important is this issue of the development that we're going to potentially sell off the property. Originally, a couple of weeks ago, I think you said that you thought the project might generate $4 to $5 million in a sale of 10 to 15 acres. And then I guess either last week or this week, it rose to $7.5 million for 15 acres, and now it's $7.5 million for up to 18 acres. So I'm just, it's looking like a blob.
Well, and I guess the first answer was our fault. It was our guessing until we actually reached out to people, and Mark was extremely helpful, Hendricks, as well as we talked with some other developers who have projects going on in town currently, and asked them roughly what would be a reasonable price on an approved lot per unit. And based on that, anywhere ranging from $40,000 to even $100,000 for sale of an approved lot, we came up with the 7.5, which is really conservative. We believe all these things are always based on economies, and we all know the economy can ebb and flow. We believe that 7.5 is conservative after doing a little bit more research from our original guess, basically.
Okay.
So we're more comfortable with this number, the higher number, than we were with the lower number.
Okay, thank you. I had noticed that in your presentation you hadn't made the point about the restricted 55 and over senior adults. Mr. Gross didn't really specify that in his analysis, so I just want to make sure that that is what you're committing to presenting to the council at some point, that it's going to be 55 and over restricted.
I think in the presentation I called it an active adult community, but yeah, I clearly mean age restricted. And again, it's not that we don't want to attract young families. We just think that has a nice feel as part of a golfing community, while also addressing a need for, you know, senior housing. So we just think it meets a lot of needs. The traffic, complementary use with the golf course, and a good fit to the community. But that's absolutely what we mean.
Okay, and I forgot to mention also that you're originally talking about 150 units, and in the presentation day it's 175 units.
So again, when we first talked to council in executive session, I guess a couple weeks ago, a lot of this was happening very fast. As a member of the public mentioned, this is all happening very fast. Some of that was kind of just rough, kind of spitballing, as they call it. Once we kind of sat down and looked a little more closely, and you realize you have to factor in your affordable housing component that we have as an obligation in West Orange, we think that 150 then becomes 175 because of that obligation. So we think 175 makes more sense, and again, based on the reasonable expectation for a per unit sale price, that gets the number up a little well. Because keep in mind, and this is just the economies of development, an affordable unit doesn't have the same sale price, as you can appreciate the economics of it, as a market rate unit. So balancing all that, meeting our obligation for affordable housing, and trying to do what's reasonable, we come up with 175 as being more realistic.
Okay. And just getting back to the bigger issue, I think you did a great job on the presentation, but I really think it was a best-case scenario, and I just wanted to, somebody had asked about Plan B. I'm not asking about Plan B, but what happens if some of the assumptions, some of the major, particularly financial assumptions, don't come through? It looks like everything comes back to the taxpayers.
You're absolutely right, and I tried to hint at this before. This is not a public offering for a new business venture. So I don't want to say that if it fails, we're not in trouble. But if we were a for-profit business venture, failing is a problem. If we find, and this is simply my opinion and the administration's position, that the economics don't work out perfectly, we still preserved 138 acres. So as I mentioned, government cannot always be in the profit business. Most of the things we do, in fact, nearly all the things we do, don't make money. So we want this to fund itself. We want this to be a great amenity, but if we hit a bunch of obstacles or the economy does what happened a decade ago, we'll have to deal with that. But at the end of the day, even if that happens, we've preserved 138 acres, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think open space should be a priority, and this is a great opportunity. I'm just trying to figure out what the potential downside could be.
And look, if we ever got to a position, and a future council and a future administration got to a position that this was a real economic burden, you hate to say it, but it's a huge asset. The town could sell half of it, or they can sell 20 acres. You know what I mean? So if you don't end up preserving it through Green Acres, if we lose a Green Acres application and all these other things don't happen, and the town got in a position, they could still preserve 75 acres and sell the rest of it. So there's always that option. However, again, if all those expectations and scenarios don't equal out, we've still preserved the land. And I think, again, talking about the multiple of community perspectives, if we focus on that as perhaps being the most important perspective, because so many of the other perspectives can climb out of that, then I don't think that's horrible.
Okay.
And if you look back over time in this community, there's tons of huge tracts of land. It would have been nice if the town bought 40 years ago. They didn't. So I don't think the town ever gets hurt from having acquired this land.
Right, and I agree that's a real social good. It just will be coming at a higher price than what we're expecting. I heard some questions about Green Acres, and I just want to see if I can be as specific as I can about this, because I just went to the Green Acres website and just read the application for municipalities, and it says, I'm just going to read like 3 or 4 sentences, because this is what's concerned me. It says, projects will compete against each other and successful applications will be approved by the Garden State Preservation Trust. The demand for funding continues to greatly exceed Green Acres available funding. Successful applications are normally approved subject to a cap, and often there is not sufficient funding to approve all eligible projects. As a result, we will only consider funding requests from new applicants or from applicants who are making significant progress on previously approved projects. So that doesn't sound like what the perspective of the administration is, and can you talk at all about why the difference might be? I mean, is there a chance we won't get almost $5 million?
There's always a chance. Let's be clear. New Jersey has bigger economic issues than we do, so we recognize that. However, what has been clear, whether it's been through Democratic or Republican administrations in the governor's mansion, there's always been a priority on open space. And though Green Acres is not as funded as perhaps as they were a decade ago, largely in part because they've been aggressively trying to preserve land, we believe that priority will always be there. And as I mentioned earlier, we're not trying to nibble off 3 acres of land somewhere in some obscure part of the state. This is 138 acres in the middle of Essex County, and we can all begrudge the tax burden in Essex County, but that's largely in part because we are a very expensive place, very desirable place with very high cost of land. So I think, and we believe, and even talking with Green Acres, that Green Acres is going to consider this a priority acquisition. As I mentioned, as you just pointed out, they're not funding in full anymore, and again, that's because they're trying to budget their money, but we believe, though nothing's guaranteed, we believe there's a very high percentage that they will fund this project, seeing all the benefits that we do.
So if we don't get the application, or it's significantly less than what we're expecting, what's the fallback? Just we have to pay it with township money?
Pay with township money. Again, we believe the sale of the land is realistic, and possibly even more than that. We didn't count in land acquisition costs for the Public Works property. There's, we believe, at least $4 million there. I don't want to say pocket money, but extra money. So we believe there's funding there. Development, and again, if we were to develop a piece of that land, we expect, based on today's dollars, probably be more 6 years from now, that even only developing 10% of the property is ultimately going to produce 3 times the current property taxes. So that will certainly help to offset the cost of the bond as well. So again, I just want the council to be clear and the public to be clear. We think this pays for itself, but we don't see that as the most important component of this project. The most important component of the project for the community, from the administration's perspective, is to acquire the land. We think we can pay in 8 years. If we can't, we'll deal with it, because we think the alternative has a much greater negative impact on the community as a whole than maybe additional tax burden.
Now more to the personal, I guess. I talk to a lot of golfers. I don't golf much. But a lot of the golfers I talk to, and some of them were speaking here tonight, say they really prefer 18-hole courses, and they weren't sure whether we would play a 9-hole course. I know you're a big golfer, so how many 9-hole courses have you, how many rounds have you played on?
Well, I will tell you, and again, I think if you spoke to 100 people about any issue, you get 100 different answers. I will simply tell you, anecdotally, I really only play 9 or 10 when I play. 18 takes a long time, and I'm not alone in that.
And you're a mayor.
And I'm not alone in that.
And you have a day job.
And as I mentioned, Hudson County now has a 9-hole course. There are other 9-hole courses opening. Not that Jack Nicklaus Golf Company is, you know, an expert, although he's pretty good. I mentioned earlier, he's developing 12-hole courses, recognizing that as our attention span lessens as humans, less people are paying 18. That's not to say people wouldn't love to play 18. I've heard a lot of people myself, they keep it 18. I don't know that keeping it 18 gets us where we want to get. But if we find in 2 years it's hugely popular, we can certainly entertain that. I just think if you're, again, trying to balance all those different perspectives, making it 9 or even maybe 11 or 12 gives you a little bit more flexibility to create space that the entire community can appreciate. And although, and it's not the same to all the golfers here, I'm not saying it is, there are plenty of 9-hole courses where if you want to play 18, you just go around twice, you know, so, so that's how they're structured.
I had one particular golfer who's played 18 holes at Rock Spring a lot, and he said he would not do that, because I threw that out to him. Would you do the same?
I understand that, okay. But those are decisions that we can make as a community. I just think those are better decisions to make as opposed to fighting litigation.
Okay. Just to move on a few more issues. I noticed in Mr. Gross's analysis that once it's projected to go to 9 holes, that the projected revenue that we get goes from $100,000 to $150,000 annually. That seems counterintuitive. Is that the correct estimation?
We did that mainly for a couple of reasons. We actually think the first year numbers of 100 are probably conservative. Again, I like to play golf, not particularly well, but I like to play golf. We're not experts on operations, but all the people we've talked to said, you're talking about a country club level golf course that's now going to be a public course. The professionals believe it's going to be incredibly popular. We can only take their word on it, and we'll see in the numbers, but we think 100 in the first year is conservative, that even if it goes to 9 holes, we still think there's revenue opportunity there for the community, and we think 150, based on looking at some other golf courses operated by public entities, based on their numbers, both 9 and 18-hole courses.
Okay. There's some people who have talked to me about there was a course down in Scotch Plains that got into trouble, and it's called, forgive me if I can't pronounce it,
It's a weird name. I know that.
Shakamakson,
Yeah.
right. And what the municipality did was, if I understand correctly, they declared an area of need of rehabilitation and then actually sold off a small part of that in the resulting litigation to settle.
So that's, we talked to them, we wanted to get the facts because we were hearing the same thing from people that you were hearing. So that was in an attempt to stop litigation. So the club was sold to a developer. The town tried to zone it to prevent that, which we all know is spot zoning and is illegal. So in the aftermath of the threat of litigation from the developer, they worked out a deal where they would only build on some of the property and some of it was be preserved. So we don't have the ability, the council doesn't have the ability under the law to simply spot zone this property to prevent development. That's what they tried to do, and I'm sure they had good legal counsel. They knew it wasn't going to happen. It was a defensive move to guess, perhaps bring the developer to the table, which they did. So in the end, I think it was a win-win. They avoided litigation, they preserved some land, the developer built on some land. So there's really nothing, despite a lot of good, reasonable ideas from the community, there's nothing we can do as a government body that can specifically zone this property just to prevent development. It's illegal, it would never uphold in court, and we're not going to even take the step as being something that we don't have the legal right to do.
Right. So again, just to clarify, as far as you know, did Scotch Plains actually turn it in, declare an area of rehabilitation?
That's not my understanding, that they tried to zone it as a recreational use and prevent development, and that prior to litigation being filed, in the threat of litigation, they sat down with all the parties and worked out a compromise to avoid litigation and saved what they could, and they saved a piece of the land.
Okay. There was also, in the appraisal of the property that we got today, it talked about the 2017 sale of Emerson Golf Club up in Bergen County. It was an 18-hole course. It totaled 134 acres, which is very similar to what here, and the price was $7.8 million, so it was significantly less than what we're looking at too. Did you look at that at all as perhaps another method, another way to go? Because I understand that the club sold it to the Bergen County Industrial Authority.
I don't know specifically what the plans are for that course, so I know I read the report as you did, so I can't speak and did not speak to them about what their objectives were. I know the numbers are different, but I don't know what the Bergen County Authority ultimately has plans for the property or what the assessed value was. Okay. We're comfortable that our assessed value more than supports the purchase price. In fact, we still believe it's in excess of the purchase price, which is important in relation to our other golf courses and golf clubs in town.
Okay. And there was some discussion about the debt, and I just wanted to throw it out because I talk about this a lot, and I just want to make sure everybody sort of understands that if we take on this debt of $12 million, it's going to bring our total issued and outstanding debt to almost $92 million. That would be more than a 14% increase. And while that doesn't sound that significant for a project like this, overall, I just want to see if I can dig up these numbers. Since 2010, our debt has increased 54% from 32 million, and now it's going to, I'm sorry, not from 32 million, from 60 million, now up to 91, almost 92 million. Our debt service in that time has risen about 50% through last year, and the ratio of our assessed value, our taxable property, to our debt has gone in that time period from 0.89% to 0.148%. So we are adding on a lot of debt service, and we're doing it in a rising interest rate environment. So we can expect interest rates on our borrowings going forward to be higher. And we're looking at borrowing for 7 or 8 years, short term, and in an interest rate environment. So we could have more significant interest costs.
Council President, you're absolutely right. Again, 3 months ago, the administration had no intention of buying Rock Spring and adding $12 million in debt. We are simply reacting to a market condition. Again, not only was the county very cooperative, the club themselves have been incredibly cooperative, recognizing the benefit in selling to the town. So we know this is a unique situation. We just think letting it go to the market and to the developer is worse for the community than the increase in the debt service. And just as a sidestep, no one wants debt, but just so the public understands, our debt is funding road repaving, it's funding park construction, it's not shopping sprees at the mall. So no one wants debt, but that's the only way we can maintain and service this community. We pave roughly 3 miles of roads every year. That's borrowed. We fix our parks, we fix our public buildings. Those are all things that are bonded. So no one likes the debt, but we can't service a town of 12.2 square miles, 100 miles of municipal roads, and 50,000 people and all the needs they have without borrowing. So you're not wrong in that. The debt's gone up, but they're necessary expenditures to maintain an aging community with aging infrastructure.
Well, thank you, Mayor. You've been great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. Yes, Councilwoman.
Mayor, one more. There was a resident, Mr. Durr, spoke before, and that word, he used the word reimagine, to reimagine a plan in the future. And just to pick up on what my colleague was just talking about, if we had to reimagine the financing of this property. We also have open space funds. It's close to $1 million in open space funds. And it was not in your presentation, but do you recall a few years ago we lowered the penny on the dollar? So
In the open space.
on the
yeah.
open space fund, right? So that would be something else that we can reconsider if we had to reimagine another financial plan
And
to
again,
go
that's
back to a penny on the dollar.
You're absolutely right. That's ultimately a council decision to increase the open space allocation. There's roughly, John, $1 million in our open space trust fund.
Yeah.
We did not account for that
No.
money in this deal, mainly because we know the township and the council and the open space trust fund has other pieces of property they're looking at. So we didn't want to monopolize our open space funds. We set up this funding pro forma based on money outside of that. If we in fact use that, that's $1 million we could pay down immediately.
Right.
We want to leave that to the discretion of the Open Space Trust Fund Commission and the council for other acquisitions.
Okay,
Thank you.
just another possibility. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council President. I just would like to clarify that, just, or maybe Mr. Gross, you want to do it. The change in the open space, the municipal open space tax, was because we reevaluated.
Yes.
And so our whole tax
Yes.
structure changed.
And that's
So
what
to
we
keep it, taking out the same amount of money, which is about $150,000 a year,
Roughly.
we did change the number. If we moved it back to where it was before, we'd be pulling in what, $600,000, $700,000 a year, something like that? Yeah. Not sure.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would consent agenda?
Council President, just one question.
voting on this?
Just procedure
Yeah.
for all the people here, all our
I think,
professionals, all
yeah.
the members of administration. Are you going to proceed to the issues pertaining to Rock Spring or go through the whole
I think
agenda
we
first?
should.
I'm sorry?
I would
Do what?
prioritize this.
Yes, I would,
Oh,
yes.
I would
let's-
prioritize
I
this.
would
Council.
If I wasn't clear, I was actually asking you to just go right to the Rock Spring issues.
I'm sorry, sir?
For the resolutions that have to do with.
Yes.
Rock
Right, that's what,
Spring
well, that's
and-
what I was,
Okay.
okay.
Well, yeah, I could do,
Yes, Madam Clerk.
proceed with consent.
Yes.
Approval of minutes of previous meeting, public meeting and executive session of February 5th, 2019.
Consent.
Consent.
Report of township officers, none. Reading of petitions and communications and bids, none. Bills, are there any questions on the
Consent.
bills?
Consent.
Resolutions, are any resolutions being pulled this evening?
And we're talking about Rock Spring-related resolutions, right? Because these
Any
experts are here.
resolutions
Well, whatever resolutions you don't want to vote on
On consent.
consent.
Right.
Oh, there you go, so then we don't
For
have
instance,
to
if
pull
you're
them.
going to vote for them all, you can,
You can vote on
Consent.
consent, right.
I have a question on one that I need clarified. M, Recycling Center.
That's a different.
No, that's added on, that was added on.
7719.
That, I just wanted clarification, because there was confusion with what we were given, and one was pulled and one was given back. So this is just adding an additional month to the current contract? Okay, that was my question. I just needed that clarified.
Council President, the administration asked that 6919 be pulled off the agenda for this evening.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
And if we're still asking questions, Council President, on the first
Yes.
resolution, 35-19, this was the one about the engineering firm. I just wanted to ask if the firm we moved to, new CME Engineering, the engineers that are working on applications that are currently pending or in the middle, will Bowman continue to complete those applications before we?
Some yes, some no. So we
Yes.
are working with the chairman of both the planning and zoning boards to reconcile that. Yeah.
Great, okay, thank you.
Yes. Anybody else?
No.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
I am actually going to pull, sorry. So there's a couple of agendas, resolutions that I wanted to pull, and then just questions on others. So I'll just give you the ones that I want to pull. 67, 19, 68, 19,
Yeah, we're doing
And I think those are the only two. I just have questions on a couple others.
Okay, your questions?
Okay. So let me get to on the bid award, which is Resolution 71, where it talks about the various township-owned parcels with respect to leaf collection and debris collection, and we had one, correct? One response to the RFP?
That's correct.
Okay. So it talks about various properties. Where are those various, how many are various properties? I didn't see the list.
It's all the properties that we own.
It's on the,
That we own.
Yeah. It's parks, it's small little islands here and there, it's
on the back of the...
government property,
the resolution.
buildings.
Okay, so that was one question. Why did we only get one bid?
We privatized that service maybe 7 years ago, and though the first year or two we got a couple bids, this particular vendor has routinely been significantly lower than everybody else. So the last several renewals, no one's even bid it. They've been pretty inexpensive compared to what the market has shown, and quite honestly, have done a pretty good job.
Okay. I was just asking because it's $145,000.
Last time we received other bids, they were, in some cases, double that.
Okay.
So whatever magic formula this guy has, he's doing it cheap and doing it pretty well.
Well, then I appreciate that one. Okay. Sure. I didn't see that one there. And then the one on 76, authorizing the second appraisal for the properties on Ridge Road. I also obviously had a concern with authorizing this appraisal, only because I realize that it is an appraisal, but if we're already potentially looking at applying for Green Acre funding for this particular project, you know, is there a priority that we're talking about doing, particularly since they're not granted?
So I suppose depends on what neighborhoods you ask as to what the priority would be.
Well, I've got to ask you.
But
I've
the Open Space Commission and this council, quite honestly, has been working on this particular
Yes.
property for a while. So the administration supports this request for second appraisal, required by Green Acres, by the way. You need two
Yes, I do
appraisals.
know that.
So we don't want to automatically pull the plug on all the other properties we were looking at, which is why in our pro forma, we did not account for the $1 million in the Open Space Trust Fund, because we know there are more than just one property as a priority. So no sense in pulling the plug on that process now.
No, I
We'll see if we can-
I wasn't suggesting that. I was just wondering, you know, what the competition would have been. Would it be detrimental to the application for the golf course?
Look, I know that particular property is of much less value than the
Yes.
Rock Spring. I think in the end, it might be $1.5 million, $2 million, whatever the number is. So it'd be nice to get Green Acres funding, but we have enough money within our Open Space Trust Fund and the ability for that fund to borrow to buy that without Green
Okay.
Acres. So
That
I
was
don't-
going to be my follow-up question.
Yeah, I don't know that we need to, it'd be nice, but
Okay.
I don't think the purchase of that property, should the Open Space Commission and the council ultimately decide to go in that direction, that does not hinge on Green Acres funding.
Okay, that was the follow-up question.
Councilwoman, if may, Councilman Kukoviac has a...
I just want to follow up on that because...
If you don't mind.
I'm on the Open Space Commission, and we've been trying to get this moving for a couple of
Yes.
years. And part of the strategy was to get Green Acres funding. As I read to you, I think Green Acres only considers one application at a time from the municipality. And I thought that we had already applied for Green Acres, but for the Ridge Road properties, but maybe we haven't.
I don't think we did. I think that's why they're asking for the
Okay,
second
okay.
appraisal.
Okay,
be
so-
required. We
so-
think if the council were to, in fact, decide to proceed on that, and that's ultimately your discretion, with the Open Space Commission's recommendation, they don't have legal authority to bind the council, that would most likely happen much sooner than our ability to have a finalized plan prepared on the Rock Spring property. So I don't see that as necessarily burdened. We'll have to evaluate that as an administration once we have all these facts. But again, I don't know that purchasing the property on Ridge Road would be completely contingent upon Green Acres. I think the township, with our existing Open Space Trust Fund and the ability for that fund to borrow a little bit, we could probably do that acquisition without it.
Okay. As long as I got you here and we're talking about Green Acres, the administration just pulled Resolution 6919, which I'm sorry, 69, sorry, 6919. That doesn't mean we're pulling the actual Green Acres application. Is that correct?
No, because we had found out again, with a lot of diligence, we found out on Friday that you really can't apply until you finalize the plan. So there's no reason to have that on the agenda. The agenda was prepared before that.
Okay.
So we're not pulling the idea of applying. We just found out more definitively late on Friday that you really have to finalize a plan first. So we'll put that back on the agenda when we're ready.
Okay.
Pending council approval.
So we're going to apply for Green Acres for the Rock Spring project,
Yes.
but we're not going to, we can't
We have to
actually
really
complete-
decide what land we want to preserve and what land we're willing to consider for development.
Okay, so they'll accept the application without some rather, seems to me, key elements?
No, they require that, which is why we're pulling it.
Okay. So,
It's not in this round.
It's not in this round. We're not going to get it done for this round.
So it's not going to get done this year?
Because,
Okay,
because we
that's what
found
I'm
out,
trying to-
you found out you have to be a little bit more definitive on what land you're looking to build on potentially,
Okay,
or what land
okay.
you're looking to preserve.
Thank you
So-
for clarifying.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Matute Brown, I'm sorry, you can have the floor is back to you.
No, thank you, because I was going to ask what round was it going to be in, because then it wouldn't even be,
We were hoping to get in this round, and for the public's edification,
Thank
the
you.
deadline was March 30th, so we were really pressed up against the deadline. And our original information was that you could apply to Green Acres even if you weren't 100% sure where you might want to build on eventually. After a lot of back and forth with both our grant writers and Green Acre representatives, late on Friday, it was determined that you really can't be so loosey-goosey. You have to know for sure what you're looking to preserve and what you're looking to build on. So that means we aren't going to make this round. It just gives us a little bit more time to finalize a plan pending council approval and submitting on the next round.
okay. And my other question, Councilwoman Castellino already asked, so I'm good.
Yes, Councilwoman Castellano. Thank you, Councilwoman Matute Brown. Councilwoman
Thank you.
Castellano.
I know I had asked this question already, but I'm just going to ask Madam Clerk, just because the resolution for 7719 and reading it on the agenda, I don't know. I know I just want to make sure it jives. I just don't sure if the recap of the description matches the extension. It does, oh, okay. Right, am I imagining things, or?
You have the different resolution.
Yes, there's a different resolution.
Okay, but it's just one again.
Okay, so what we're going to pass is the correct version. The description on the agenda is incorrect.
Yes, that was last week.
Revised.
Yeah, that's what I thought, so it didn't jive. So we're doing the 1-month extension
Right.
only, not renewing the contract.
Correct.
Thank you, Madam
Thank
Clerk.
you. Madam Clerk? Oh, Councilman?
I had one question on Resolution 6619, and one of my least favorite subjects is we're contributing more debt. I just wondered if Mr. Gross could just give us the 30-second, and unless, Council President, you want to give us the 30-second on why we're authorizing borrowing another $1.57 million.
Actually, you've already authorized this. This is just the next step.
That's it.
This is a
Okay.
joint
Yeah, you already
meeting.
authorized it.
Okay. And this is to help, again, 30 seconds for the sewer treatment.
Sewer treatment plant. This is-
Some improvements there.
Yes.
Okay. And then I also wanted to pull Resolution 73-19. It's the resolution authorizing the township to enter into and execute an agreement with Goose Control Technology.
I think,
This is your yearly pull.
That's right.
yeah,
You put it right in the
I thought Ms.
agenda. It should
Fantino,
be
was- Ms.
right.
DeNova was here. Is Mike here? Teresa here?
Yes, Mr. Trank. Okay.
The health officer's here if you have questions, but and maybe for some of the public who doesn't come to these meetings as often as perhaps they'd like to, we have a geese problem in West Orange at properties surrounding waterways, and if you've visited some of our parks, Degnan Park especially, you walk through a lot of geese mess. So every year going back perhaps almost 10, 12 years now, Teresa, that we hire a company that comes in and helps to eliminate the problem and addle the eggs to help keep the population down. So I'm not trying to be cruel to the geese, but they have completely in some cases done significant damage to Degnan Park, as well as some of the golf courses that have waterways. OSPAC has had issues, so we're doing the best we can to fight Mother Nature and protect the geese, but keep the population down a little bit. This is a contract that we've entered into, as I mentioned, for over a decade now. Seems to work pretty well. It works in conjunction with volunteers, and it's the best of a bad situation. So the administration is still committed to it. I know you've had concerns every year, but we're still committed to it, having not found a better way yet to address the problem.
Yes. I agree with everything you said. I just vote against this because I don't think it's $3,000 we need to spend. There are other municipalities in the county that have their own volunteer programs to do this. I just wanted to, so I don't vote for this, but I was very concerned up at Degnan Park because over about a 5-week period I saw a group of geese that looked like about 10 or 12, including some goslings, but mostly adults, and I was very concerned that maybe something had gone wrong at Degnan Park, and the goslings weren't getting addled. And so I just was curious as to...
Off the top of my head, I don't know, but with Mr. Nova's help and the health department, we'll look into that and we'll get back to the council whether or not we've missed a cycle or not. I'm not 100% sure when the addling egg cycle begins. So we'll report back to the council.
It actually begins in about 4 or 5 weeks, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda is implemented. Resolution 67-19, resolution authorizing the township to utilize competitive contracting in lieu of public bidding to solicit and review proposals for the potential contract to manage, operate, and maintain the Rock Spring Golf Course consistent with requirements under the LPCL. Councilwoman Matute Brown, you pulled this?
So 2 reasons I pulled this. One, so that we can have some transparency and clarity for the public who, when bids and requests for proposals go out, and what I mentioned before, we get one, there's always a concern. So I wanted to just discuss this openly as to the need for this, the preference for the township to do the professional service contract versus the bids.
So, again, we're not going to be in the golf business. We're not going to run golf courses. We're not going to maintain golf fairways and greens and the delicate maintenance that's required there. So we want to bring in professionals to do that. We don't know much about even that. Our legal department, to their credit, worked diligently to talk with a lot of other public entities that have done this to get a good RFP together. We think this RFP is good because it gives us options to pick out the best financial scenario for the community. And again, not knowing or having ever been down this path before, we can only go based on what we've been told. And we've heard from several operators from all over the country once it hit the internet. So we think we're going to get a lot of proposals, and the administration will have to figure out a way to best review those. We don't think we're going to get one. You're not wrong, and I think even a member of the public mentioned it. You're going to get less maybe interest as a 2-year as opposed to a 10-year. But we do think because of the unique situation here, this is a private club going public. We think there's a lot of interest from the golfing community and from those operators too. So it's the first time we've ever done it. We're going to put it out there and do the best we can to evaluate the responses when they come in and make a recommendation to the council. So we don't think we're going to get just one.
And well, I wanted you to talk about the way that this is being done, right? Which is the preference of the township not to do just an open bid, but...
Look, I always tell people, sometimes you got to be careful of, lowest or best bid.
Yes.
We've tons of examples in this community where the lowest responsible bidder turned out to be a nightmare for 2 years for the town and cost us 3 times as much. So we don't believe in the professional operation of a golf course. You really want to simply base it on the highest bid. There's a lot of things to consider. And plus, as I mentioned, the RFP lists several different ways in which they can submit proposals. They can submit simply on a flat fee, a percentage of the gross, flat fee per round. So there's a bunch of different ways that the professionals who do this for a living can put this together and say, we think this is the best bet. And then the town can make the determination based on what the experts come back to as submitting a proposal. Obviously, they want to make money, but they also are going to have to balance their proposal with the need to entice the town to hire them. So we don't think simply saying the most expensive bid is necessarily best for the town. So evaluating it from a bunch of different criteria points, we think is in all our best interest, especially because we've never done this before.
And I do agree with you. I just wanted to put that out there for the public to understand that that's why this process is being done this way. And also, who's evaluating those bids?
So
Since none of us are
we've never had a
professionals in
golf
this area.
committee evaluation process before.
We're gonna have a golf
We'll have to
committee.
figure that out. Again, trying to be very respectful of the process and very respectful of the speed in which we're moving here. None of this matters unless the council approves this. So we want to get the RFP out, so that's parallel to this process, so we don't, a couple weeks behind the schedule. If in fact the council ultimately approves this, we'll have to figure out with the administration how we set up a committee, perhaps with Bill Keogh, and any expertise we get. Rich is, he's flagging me as saying something inappropriate.
No, under the competitive contracting statute, under local public contracts law, as you know, it will be a blind committee. Everyone will have to sign a conflict waiver. Traditionally, you would expect your finance person to be on it because it has a financial impact. Possibly the township engineer, possibly the director of recreation. But the bottom line is that committee is very constricted by the statute. So the most important thing is you have to get it's 105 pages.
Yes, I know.
I'm sure you read it.
Yeah.
We borrowed from Union County. The mayor actually went and met with the Union County administration. Galloping Hill is a very successful public course that most people are aware of. Ashbrook is another one. Hudson County, as the mayor said, has a 9-hole, and the Knoll and Parsippany does. The biggest thing the mayor has been adamant, as you probably saw in this bid spec, is that we have no financial risk. It's only an upside.
Yeah.
So we may not get lots of numbers here. That's why it's not just who's offering the most money. It's who has the best financial stability, who has the technical experience, who's doing in this area. Because keep in mind, as the mayor said, we're buying $1 million of equipment, hypothetically. It could break down. We're getting as is where it's golf maintenance committee. If it breaks down, we want an operator who could bring something in from another course so the course isn't down. So those are all going to be part, as you saw, the criteria is set forth in the bid spec. It's technical, it's management, and it's weighted. But we are on a tight time frame. It will go on the street on Thursday if you approve it. There's a 20-day turnaround, and then the committee will meet. Whoever's in that committee, according to the administration, and then they'll come back and they'll give you a written report to the community. It's not just going to be we say 1, 2, or 3. We're going to give you the report with the recommendation. The council has the ability to accept those recommendations or to go in a different direction.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Clerk. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just want to add to the conversation of my colleague. Also, I like that you have in there that the bidders could have a site tour that you have set up for them, which I think.
March 5th or March 7th.
March 5th, yeah.
Yes.
Inclement weather, we have the 7th as a backup.
So I think that's important, so they get a good visual of the property, of the amenities. Again, it's also the clubhouse that we're looking at, too. So the potential is there. And I just want to put a plug in. I like to see, Mr. Keogh on there as well, on the committee for the recreation with the...
I think he agrees.
But we did also put in here, one of the things I think in general has been positive with the environmental center is having a contract compliance officer.
Yeah.
So we do have that baked in here so that you will have oversight, not just in picking the vendor, but monitoring the vendor. Because that's obviously going to be important in judging the numbers so you see how viable it is.
No, absolutely. Thank you.
Anybody else? Madam Clerk.
Is there a motion to approve 67-19?
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilman Kukoviac?
Yes.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman McCartney?
Yes.
Council President Garino.
Yes.
Okay. Resolution 68-19, resolution of the Township of West Orange authorizing the submission of an application to the local finance board pursuant to NJSA 48:2-11 and NJSA 48:2-7, requesting a waiver of down payment for a bond ordinance providing for the acquisition of the Rock Spring Golf Club. Councilwoman Matute Brown.
Okay. once again, for the benefit of the public, because a lot of us are very new to the process of what this is. And while I did look at the statutes and I understand how to read them, I wanted you to discuss them. And I also wanted to point out in the whereas clause, because I want the public to understand that the decision that we're taking tonight is not taken lightly. You know, there is something in here that says in Part D, the adoption of the bond ordinance funding goes on and on. Township will not create an undue financial burden to be placed upon the township. That's not
It's a great point, Councilwoman.
wholly true.
So that's a great point. So townships, despite maybe the best of intentions, don't have the right to just bond like crazy. Local Finance Board, as a checks and balance, always has to approve these. So, for example, if we wanted to, build ourselves, beautiful new offices for all the council members and bond new cars, the Local Finance Board might say that's an excessive use of funding. So the Local Finance Board has to approve everything the council authorizes in terms of bonding to make sure it's deemed appropriate and it's handled properly and the sale of the bonds is appropriate, which is why we have bond counsel. In this case, as in normal, we have to pay a down payment on the bond. Because of the size of this bond, that would make the down payment substantial, and in addition to the lost tax revenue, would create an additional burden for 2019. So in addition to applying to the Local Finance Board for the approval of the amount, we're asking that we're requesting that they waive the down payment. And for the public's and council's edification, I think it might be good to hear from Everett to kind of explain that a little bit more technical. But that's why you have specific bond counsel to navigate this very important process.
Good evening. This is Everett Johnson, bond counsel for Willis Goldman and Spitzer. Just wanted to clarify that the resolution is strictly because of the waiver of the 5% down payment request. Your normal bond ordinances would not necessarily require approval of the Local Finance Board. But because we want to waive the down payment, which would be 5%, that would be significant, part of the capital budget of the township, that we're looking to waive it due to the fact that the golf course will generate revenues. That'll be, obviously with regards to the mayor's policy in keeping taxes low, that we feel that if we were going to operate this as a Green Acres Park type of open space project, we would automatically receive a waiver of down payment. But because of the timing of this matter, because we have to move quickly, because as you mentioned, we're going to miss the first phase, we're not going to have applied and received approval of Green Acres prior to adopting our bond ordinance. But we're going to apply. We plan to apply. So we don't think we should be penalized and required to pay a 5% down payment in this project because of the timing. And so because of that, we're requesting the ability to go down to the Local Finance Board to get their permission to waive the 5% down payment requirement.
Thank you.
Any other questions to the council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Is there a motion to approve 68-19?
So, second.
Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilman Kukoviac?
Yes.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman McCartney?
Yes.
Council President Garino.
Yes.
Okay. Resolution 73-19, resolution authorizing the township to enter into and execute an agreement with Goose Control Technology for the calendar year 2019 at a rate of $3,000 for the implementation of a nuisance-related geese control program. Councilman Kukoviac.
I think the mayor and I have said our piece, and so we just need to move to a vote unless the rest of the council wants to chime in.
Well, Councilman, this is your opportunity. You have a lot of volunteers here tonight.
Oh, no. There's no doubt that we could get the volunteers that help in a lot of the municipalities do that. We actually had volunteers here several years ago before they drained away.
Is there a component in here for a training program? There is a component.
Yeah, the component is $500 to actually train volunteers.
Okay.
But the volunteers came out for a couple years, and we haven't seen them for several years.
I'd love to see more. I mean, it'd be great.
Right, but they can't do anything. When Goose Control has the contract, they can't do anything except observe.
Yeah.
But if you had enough volunteers, you could say, okay, we can do it.
We could take it over. We could save the town $3,000, yes.
I'd like to see it, really.
Then vote against it.
No.
Do it. Council President, that'd be great. I'd appreciate support.
Volunteers in place.
Is there a motion to approve 73-19?
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes, softball season's coming at Degnan Park, so I'm gonna vote yes.
Councilman
Need it ready.
Kukoviac?
No.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman McCartney?
Yes.
Council President Garino.
Yes.
Okay. Move on to ordinances.
So, Mr.
Yes, Council, yes, Mr.
I
Trank.
think the administration would appreciate it if you'd go to 10B and 10C since the public is waiting.
Ordinances on first reading.
Right.
Okay, ordinance 2563-19, an ordinance authorizing the acquisition by the Township of West Orange of certain real and personal property pursuant to local lands and building law of the State of New Jersey, NJSA 40A:12-1 et sec. Is there a motion to approve on first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilman Krokoviac?
Yes.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman McCartney?
Yes.
Council President Garino.
Yes.
Okay.
When will the second reading of the public hearing be?
March 5th. 2564-19, bond ordinance providing for the acquisition of real property commonly known as Rock Spring Golf Course by and in the Township of West Orange in the County of Essex, State of New Jersey, appropriating $12,050,340, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $12,050,340 bond or notes of the township to finance the costs thereof. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
On
Second.
first reading. Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilman Krokoviac?
No.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Can I say something before I vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
So, here's where I am with this. I still have plenty of reservations. Still understand clearly that this would potentially be a great benefit to our towns.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, go ahead, Council.
That's okay. That's okay. And one of my biggest concerns, and Mayor, you and I spoke about this, is that we didn't have the benefit, I didn't have the benefit to look at even a preliminary budget. And I understand and do not take it lightly that everyone here has worked tirelessly to make sure that you had this much to present to us. And because time constraints being what they are and time of the essence being what it is, I still would not be comfortable taking a vote on this without even having a preliminary or a projected budget even. Just the way the council was approached and asked to consider this tremendous bond of $12 million. Yeah, I spent all weekend, and since we got the paperwork on Wednesday and Thursday, this is all I've done. Hundreds of pages. Yes, I'm not saying that it's not you. I'm not saying it's not you. Hundreds of pages. I would have appreciated to also see an anticipatory budget at the very least, because there's going to be requests for bonds at that point. Yeah, I live within a certain budget, and sometimes I splurge and then I have to pay for that. And so does my husband. But I'm just very, very reluctant to move forward at this time without first having, at the very least, a commitment from you that you will try and, even if at worst case scenario it doesn't work out, but then I would have felt comfortable understanding that every single stone was turned and that we had the possibility, and at the time that you had your talks with the county, you know, maybe at that time he didn't entertain it. Maybe there's more interest now. I know that there's more interest now, so I'm asking you, and maybe, you know, by the time second reading comes, you come back to us and say, you know what, I really tried to work something out that would be beneficial to us as well. I might feel different doing that. This is a huge ask without even knowing how much money we're going to have to put into a budget. So while it might not be the popular decision, you know, for right now, and I'm hopeful that I can change my mind, come second reading, I have to vote no.
There is no second reading.
Are you voting yes tonight?
I'm sorry.
Are you voting yes today? Tonight?
There is no second reading.
There will
if
be
you
no
vote no
second
tonight.
reading.
But if I vote no tonight, there is no reason why we cannot revisit this.
Yeah, there is.
It's going to be sold.
It's sold. It's going to be sold.
I don't.
Sold.
And if the county,
What's your
Decorum.
You got to vote.
can I,
I don't.
No, we're in vote. We're in a vote.
before she votes, I like to say something.
Okay,
if
well,
she
let me,
wouldn't mind
and
hearing
you
it,
can,
hearing it.
and you can. It is where I am. It is where I am. So I will say this, and it's not simply because, and I understand that this is a tremendous opportunity, that does not fall lightly on me. So I will do this. I will vote yes for tonight, and hopefully you can come back and have another conversation with respect to maybe we can save something on this. That's beneficial to us all. I think that that is a fair place for me to be in, considering that I don't have the benefit of an entire budget, considering that we have other obligations that we still have to meet. And I'm not taking it lightly that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but I have to look at the whole picture as well. And again, I'm not here to make a popular vote. I'm here to make an informed vote.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman, could I?
Your vote, Council, I'm sorry.
I said yes.
Okay. Councilwoman McCartney?
Yes.
Council President Garino?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Mr. President, I ask for executive session on matters of contractual negotiation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Trank.
Consistent with what's on the agenda.
Councilman, you want to say something?
If I could, yes.
Absolutely.
I join with just about everybody here and in the town in agreeing that this is a great opportunity to increase open space and recreation in the township. But the devil is in the details. The mayor is a great speaker and presenter, and he laid out, a compelling case, and I think a best case scenario. We face several issues. We've got a timing risk. We need to move expeditiously because the seller may want to sell to others who don't want open space and recreation, and the course needs to be prepared for the season, or otherwise it would become unfit. But that makes it very difficult to evaluate so much information and resident opinions, as Councilwoman just mentioned, in so short a time. But we do have until June 30th to get this across the line with the acquisition. We face interest rate risk, as I mentioned earlier. We plan to borrow short-term for several years. Given that our last short-term borrowing in December was at a 3.25% rate, that's 18% higher than what we're projecting in our analysis of what our debt that we're carrying on this $12 million is going to be. So I'm not sure that that's the most appropriate element of the analysis. This is obviously going to strain our municipal finances either way, since we lose the property tax revenue for a number of years, and the risk is that we may not get $7.5 million. Who knows? I mean, I just want to remind everybody the nightmare of downtown Edison redevelopment, where it sat for almost 10 years doing nothing because of the financial situation. And I'm not saying it's going to happen again, but it certainly could. And the property taxes, as the mayor pointed out, the significant property taxes are going to be maybe 6 years down the road. There's deal risk. I mean, we've already heard that there's seems to be some opposition to the Public Works facility being there. We hear that Green Acres funding is not guaranteed. The course may not even be viable for 9 holes. Who knows? But if it's by the time we figure out the course is not available, it probably is going to be covered by Green Acres, so we could see much less revenue from the alternatives. What I'd like to see done over the next days and weeks is, I think we need to go back and talk to the county to see if there is some deal possible where the county could run an 18-hole course and pay the township a fee, or own the golf course property and perhaps pay a fee or a pilot. This would reduce our financial risk by combining with the county. This would also make up for the loss of the property tax revenue. And many people seem to want the county involved with a record of success, and I think it's worth giving another shot. I wanted to follow up with, see if Shaka Maxon would be something that we could try here and not have to put out $12 million and entail all of the risk that's involved with that. I'd like to see the research and see some proof that a nine-hole golf course can survive or thrive here. If there are other entities in New Jersey where this is happening, let's see what the data show from that. We've already seen that the Green Acres application isn't going to be filed this year, so that's another issue sort of up in the air. And I'd like to clarify some of these issues to help the council and the residents make a more informed decision. So I believe this is the best way to proceed to get both open space and the best deal that we can for residents while still moving forward at this time. And we have other pressing issues, including, as the councilman said, we have no idea about the 2019 budget, but I think it's going to be very challenging. Both she and I requested information about, just getting some idea about the operating budget and the taxes and the capital budget. We haven't even talked about buying police cars or anything like that, but we don't know about this, and we're being asked to make this decision. And as we know now, crucial contract negotiations with the labor issues. So we have a lot of issues to handle. So anyway, I just wanted to explain myself a little bit more.
Thank you, Councilman. Make it short, because
I'm going to make it short. Councilman, I respect everything that you just said, and Councilwoman. I think, and we all have reservations when it comes to your tax money, our tax dollars. It was clearly stated that the impact for this year would be zero. So as far as it having to do with the 2019 budget, the impact is zero. So again, I like to see the numbers as well, and I've had conversations with the budget forthcoming, but there is an impact that we would be impacted on the 2019 budget. So it'd be great to have it and look at, but the impact isn't there, number one. Number two, you mention our debt, respectfully, but you always neglect to mention the debt we pay down yearly. We pay down, and Mr. Gross, I wish you would jump in every once in a while to express that we have been paying down debt, not just incurring debt year to year, but we do pay down our debt. The county, I don't know what's going on, but I know Mr. Puglisi's sitting there, so I don't know where all this interest came all of a sudden. But, and no disrespect to the county, but we're going to lose tax revenue if the county jumps in, and there won't be any revenue. And if the county can't make a 18-hole course happen in 2 years, they could always sell it down the road if they don't obtain the Green Acres money. Not that I don't have confidence in them, but we went through this when the county went to buy McClune's. All we had to hear was that's not going to work. That's a terrible project. Well, hello, McClune's. The place is buzzing, that complex. Now, and I heard how horrible the county was, how were they going to do it? And now I'm hearing, oh, we just can't handle this project. So that's I think a well thought out plan. Yes, it was brought upon us quickly, but that's real estate. Maybe, I'm in the real estate industry, so I could maybe digest it a little bit easier. But to say that they haven't been, they've been very transparent. They've been giving us figures. As far as this year's budget, it's a zero impact. We do have many other things, and you're absolutely right. We have a lot of other things that we have to get done. It's a very busy agenda this year. But to lose control of that site is going to be detrimental to this community. And don't kid yourself. When I first came on, thank you folks, when I first came on the council 3 years ago, and I kept, trying to figure out what my role was and trying to acclimate, because I know what you're going through now. It's like just trying to find your way. I had said to the mayor, what is our most important role? And your answer to me was go get revenue, go get revenue. And ever since, been working with our wonderful grant writer, Ms. Catherine Kapoor. Raise your hand, please, because you have been so successful, and I have full faith in you with writing that Green Acres grant. And again, it's not a guarantee, but just knowing all the benefit Millennium has brought to our community and to our tax revenue, I thank you. I want to thank you personally. But again, this is our chance to control. I mean, we don't have, like, the county, I've been watching the county grow, and Anthony, you know, I've been a big fan, and with the county executive, they've done a tremendous job on the corner of Northfield Avenue and Pleasant Valley Way. And we don't benefit, other than having the recognition of that beautiful site in our township. Financially, we don't benefit at all.
Okay.
And now we have an opportunity to benefit, so that's, I just had to say it, so sorry for taking everybody's time.
No, my turn. My council colleagues, we all believe in one thing and one thing only, is our love and dedication to the township and residents of West Orange. As I said in my previous thing, this is our time to set the destiny of this township and its future development. Debt is debt, and I'm not waving off debt, Councilman. I have a lot of respect for what you say, but government goes into debt to do things, and don't tell me no government goes into debt. Municipal, state, county, or anything goes into debt to do what it needs to do for its residents. Debt's a very important thing to monitor. We do pay down our debt, but this is an opportunity to give an asset to the residents of West Orange that they can decide, that future administrations can decide what they're going to do. Goes to a private developer, we lose total control. I can just imagine the legal fees that if we fight them, I can just imagine the legal fees where it would put us in. And when you go back about with the Edison development, also too, Councilman, remember, there were our own residents that were suing because they didn't like it. And that's what held up the project. Not just only their financial thing. Look, Prism's in great shape. They just built a new medical school at Hoffman LaRoche. So let's please not go there, sir. All I'm saying is looking forward, is the people out there, the residents, this is what we hear from the residents. You hear what you hear from the residents talk to you. We hear from what the residents tell us. This is our opportunity. This is our opportunity to put in their hands an asset that will grow and grow and grow. And you know what? We can make it work. And we give the benefit of the doubt. But in the long run, if it doesn't, we can always, like I said, the property's ours. We can sell it and make more money on the property if we had to. I don't believe so. I believe with a good plan, with a good, decent plan, this will work. This will really, really work. And I'm sure you would love to be interested and love to be actively involved in the creation and development of how we move this project forward. Yeah. I'm sure you would. I'm sure you have that much of an interest too, Councilman, as I think we all do. And that's all I want to say.
Council President, can we just get a clarification from bond counsel?
Go ahead, sir.
I want to say one thing. The councilman is correct when he mentioned that the township paid 3.25%. However, that no generated premium, which will be used to pay interest. So the township really is only paying 2.25% on the money that was borrowed in December. And all the numbers always run on the yield, not the coupons. So I just want to make sure that was noted on the record that you're paying back 2.25% and not 3.25%.
And I want to follow up on that.
Yes, Mr. Trank.
You said that we have until June 30th to do this. That is unfortunately not accurate. First of all, right now, we have no binding contract with Montclair Golf Club. Because the mayor went and met with them and said, please hold off. They've already hired a broker. They've held off putting it out in the market pending tonight's action. The Montclair Golf Club is not legally bound to go forward past tonight if they do not believe a transaction is going to occur, number one. Number two, under any circumstances, the contract was going to be approved on second reading, as the clerk said, on March 5th, which means it would then be advertised and would be executed and binding on this township by March 27th. So there is no ability. The only thing that goes to June 30th, as you know, Councilman, is the actual closing, because Mr. Johnson has to get the bonds sold, and that takes a process. The other point, and I do want to respond directly, because when you indicated before, Councilwoman, I want to call the Chief of Staff, the County Exec. The Mayor has been in constant contact with the County Exec and the Chief of Staff, and we talk constantly, because we have a close relationship on many projects in this town. What we proposed was, specifically, we proposed the county split the cost of this. Now, I want to make it very clear. The most, and there are representatives of Montclair Golf Club here tonight, the most the county exec ever offered for this property was $8 million. It was rejected by the golf club. They refused to accept $8 million, in large part premised on the fair market value of this club, which Mr. Hendricks is now pegged at $14 million. So the club rejected it. There's no condemnation going on here. So we said to the county exec, we believe this is in the best of your town. Let's partner it. You put up half the money, we'll put up half the money. You can operate it for the 2 years, just like we're talking about getting a vendor. You approve that RFP. Whether we go for it or not tonight is a different question. But then county exec could operate it for 2 years. He's an operating burn, as you know, so he's got some personnel. And then we said, we'll come up with a plan, just like the mayor was saying to this council tonight and the community. We'll come up with a plan in 2 years. We said to the county exec, if we can't agree between the county and the township, then the township should trump, because it is basic, I hate to use that word, trump, but the council should have the priority, and then we'll go out and we'll pay you back the $5.5, $6 million that you put up. And then the council will decide how to go forward with the town. The county exec, again, he said, I only wanted all 138 acres. He initially made a mistake that was confusing to the community, that was 160. But the county exec said, I only wanted permanent open space, all of it. And I am not willing, that's what was said to us, to share the fees. It's not McClune's where he said, I'll share some of the fees with the town, or I'll let you lock off part of it. He said, I just don't want to do that. I want to operate an 18-hole, and I want it permanently deed restricted, and I want to go for Green Acres money now. So whether that is exactly, and I confirmed it with Mr. Elijah, who I have tremendous respect for, I said, has that changed? And I said to him, if that changes between now and tomorrow, or the next day, okay, and we know Mayor Jackson from Montclair, who we totally respect, we will sit down with them, and we'll welcome you to be part of it. But the question tonight, and what we asked for the executive session is, we need to know, because whether it's Montclair, whether it's community, putting a bid on the street, looking for multiple vendors, that was one of your major points, that I totally agree, we want multiple vendors, with the caveat that we may not go for it, because we can't get the final votes, is just gonna gut our ability to continue the momentum that exists, besides all the administrative expenses you're spending on this process. We have environmental counsel, they say to go down to DEP to do a full site investigation, they've walked the site, so all of those are part of that process, which you've been totally involved in real time. We need to have direction. So that'll be, we don't have to discuss it in public, but we do look for the executive session for your input.
But I do want to respond to you in public, since you brought it up in public. Yeah. I would like for you to have that conversation with the mayor, Mayor Jackson.
You tell us when and where, just like the mayor, you gave unanimous approval 2 weeks ago to do this.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But I'm also doing my due diligence.
We love it. Thank you. Enjoy it.
Councilwoman
McCartney. The find is whether Montclair Golf Club is going to continue on this process.
Councilwoman McCartney.
I wanted to say how courageous that was for you to take such a stance, considering the overwhelming support that we have seen here and in the community at large. I totally respect the idea of scrutinizing the budget. What we voted on tonight was a bond ordinance, and at the top of the meeting we have our PBA, so much support for the PBA. We do want to see a fair and reasonable contract for them, but they're two separate things. The bond ordinance, we can't bond their salaries. We do have to study the budget, as you said, but this is to protect and preserve land and to control the land. So I see it's two separate things. Thank you.
Yes, Council, we have to get into the executive
session.
session.
Mr. Johnson, I appreciate you clarifying that. All I had to go on was what the Chief Financial Officer gave me when I asked for the amortization schedule, so thank you for clearing that up. Mr. Trank, thank you again for this information. I don't believe the council had been provided much, if any, of that information, so I appreciate you making it clear. I think it just points out that we're moving so fast, and we're physically all trying to do the right thing. There's just not enough time and communication for everybody to know everything at the same time, particularly on the council. So,
okay, we have to go into executive session. So, do I have a motion to enter an executive session?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
We'll be back shortly, hopefully. So stay tuned, and we'll be back. Thank you very much. Okay, we're calling the meeting back in order. Thank you, residents and viewers at home, for being patient with us. discussing some issues, so we're now back in, I'd like to make a motion to return to public meeting. Just go back in a public meeting, I think. Okay. All right, we're back in public meeting. Madam Clerk. Okay. Thank you, Councilman. We're back in public meeting. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, we want to finish up our council meeting, our public meeting. Madam Clerk?
Okay, ordinances on second and final reading, 2561-19, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 7, Traffic, subsection 7-32.2, restricted parking zones of the revised general ordinances of the Township of West Orange, handicap parking at 138 Watchung Avenue. Is there a motion to introduce on second and final reading?
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilman Krokoviac?
Yes.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman McCartney?
Yes.
Council President Garino.
Yes. Okay.
So, Council President, at some point, I thought you were going to comment so that the administration has a sense of what we're doing.
Can we just finish?
Okay, you're right. Okay. This is an ordinance to designate a handicap parking space at 138 Watchung Avenue. Is anyone from the public wishing to be heard on ordinance 2561-19? No? I close public comment. Any one of my colleagues have any questions or issues with this ordinance?
No? I make a motion.
It's handicap parking. That's,
Yeah.
we
Right, so
create
it's all
handicap
in-
parking spaces.
We just have to go through. Okay, there is a motion.
Is
Madam
there a
Clerk?
motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you.
Second.
Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilman Krokoviac?
Yes.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman McCartney?
Yes.
Council President Garino.
Yes. Madam Clerk, the township attorney would like to make a comment about what Mr. Trank?
Clarification.
As a result of the executive session, is going to get guidance from the council as to how we're proceeding with regard to the RFP, with regard to continuing the process with regard to the acquisition of Rock Spring and the bond. We were asking the council for direction.
Yeah, oh, yes, I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought. Oh, no, he got the... I'm sorry, Mr. Trank, say that again, I'm sorry.
The administration,
Yes.
as a result of the executive session, is asking the council to give us direction as to what we're doing beginning tomorrow morning with regard to the RFP, with regard to the bonding, with regard to the acquisition of Rock Spring Country Club.
Right, so we're going to move forward.
No, I need the council. I mean, again, I want to make sure that the entire council tells us to do that.
Right, so the council has to agree with what we, right, so we take a vote on that,
Or they can give a sense in whatever format the council.
take a vote on it?
No, we don't need to take a vote.
Or just
All in
consent?
favor? All in favor
All
of
in
moving
favor?
forward
Okay, all
with the
in favor.
resolution
Yes.
for the
All in
RFP? All in favor for moving forward with the ordinance?
For instance, we have a public meeting scheduled for next Wednesday night, February
Yeah.
27th,
Right.
Rock Spring. We do not want to have that process unless the council believes that's an appropriate process to follow in light of the votes that were taken, in light of the sentiments that were issued by the council people.
Right, so you're asking for consent, right?
Again, in whatever format you want to give
Right.
it, it can be by resolution, it could just be by.
All in favor?
Just by approval.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
And then again, I want to reiterate what the mayor said. We will meet any of the professionals, and they were all here tonight. We will meet anytime, day or night or weekend, with any member of the council. It can't be more than two at once, in any format to try to respond to questions. So we welcome that.
And
Thank you.
question,
Thank you.
Mr. Trank, so the meeting that you're going to have next, on the 27th,
Yes.
Wednesday, the 27th at 7 PM at Rock Spring Country Club,
Yes.
you'll have the professionals there, or the mayor?
Well, the mayor, I mean, I don't know about everything.
Yeah, but
We had here next
and we'll have
week.
the same presentation, so they saw it?
Well,
or-
the mayor will make whatever, I can't, The mayor
Sure.
obviously spent a tremendous amount of time on the PowerPoint, so I assume yes, he will have it there.
Okay,
And
and
he'll
was,
answer all the questions.
was there a mailing or any information sent out to the surrounding neighbors, or are we going to make a big push to make sure we get notification out?
Mr. Sayers.
Well,
Is it on the website?
Yes,
we've
everything's
used
on
a
the
lot,
website.
we'll talk to the mayor about whether or not.
Yeah, like a little
whether he wants
push to get that, for the neighbors.
We'll talk to him.
Well, not everybody's on social media, so just whatever push, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, I know that, I know. Throw it on TV 36.
45.
45, yeah.
Well, 36 is for Comcast and 45 for
Yeah.
Fios.
I
Verizon.
mean, I'm not in charge of the social
We,
media
we,
either.
what do you mean what vote? We just gave consent to her moving forward.
We're moving forward.
Yes.
Right.
Correct.
And again, I'm happy
Unanimous
to
consent.
Thank you so much, really. We do appreciate your attention to this and recognizing the time sensitive.
Thank you, Mr. Trank. Madam Clerk?
Okay. Ordinances on first reading, 2562-19, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 7, Traffic, subsection
We did that.
7.
Didn't we do that already?
No.
No, now we're on
I
first
thought we
reading.
did.
That was,
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Trust us all.
Okay,
All right, come
You
on,
can go to the videotape, though, if you want.
okay, no.
everybody wake up.
Subsection 7-25, loading zones of the revised general ordinances of the Township of West Orange. Is there a motion to introduce on
So
first
moved.
reading?
second,
Thank you. Councilwoman Castellino?
Yes.
Councilman Kukoviac?
Yes.
Councilwoman Matute Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman McCartney?
yes.
Council President Garino.
Yes.
That concludes the ordinances.
Okay.
Pending matters, new matters, council discussion.
So, Council President, I do have, I'm
Yes,
glad
ma'am.
Matt's still here. We did receive an email about moving the council meeting to the Armory
Right.
in the
Oh,
near
right.
future to celebrate the 75th anniversary.
It's their anniversary, right?
Right. So I know
I'm gonna
Board of
meet
Ed
with them.
meetings move. I think it would be,
I was going to meet with him next Wednesday
okay.
and just go through it. Somebody wants to join me when I get a different time, just take a look at the facility. He said it is ADA, so as long as it's ADA and it would be feasible, it'd be a good change of venue.
Sure. We've had
So-
events there before. I mean, not council meetings, but we've had events there before.
When he gives me the definite, date
Great.
on the Wednesday night, because it's the only night he's there, we can go. We
pick a
can go.
date.
Yes, sir.
I had just sent him an email and just asked if he had the infrastructure to actually do a video
Yeah.
cast, a taping, so I just
Yeah,
want, I don't think he's responded to me yet, but could you just confirm that
Sure.
he can do all of that?
Yeah,
That Matt can?
absolutely.
Okay.
Matt's right here.
Matt brings his own equipment in.
Right.
Yeah. He needs to plug it
Right,
in.
but the, he'll
But
have
you'll
to
need
hook
the
them
mic
up.
and
He has to
the
hook up his
mics.
equipment
Oh.
and
Okay.
make sure that there's plenty, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
But by
Matt, you'll know what
ordinance,
to
we could
pack
take
up.
this show on
Okay.
the road, we're fine with our ordinance? Okay.
Yeah,
You
as
can-
long as
you
I
can-
advertise it. And
Man, you can
yeah.
have it any public place, as long as it's
Is it,
ADA.
is it handicap
It is.
accessible?
As long as it's ADA.
It is.
And they say it's ADA.
Okay. And parking? Right, oh yeah, they have plenty of parking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other pending matters?
Yes, go ahead, Councilman.
Is there anything new, Mr. Sayers, on Executive Drive?
No, nothing as of today.
Any other?
And the planning agenda I mentioned was about this area needed redevelopment at the library on March 7th.
Madam Clerk?
ABC hearing, Resolution 616-19, resolution authorizing a new hotel liquor license to Sudden Development and Management Corporation trading as the Local Kitchen and Tap at 12 Rooney Circle, West Orange, New Jersey. This was approved by an electronic vote on January 29, 2019. All members approved this resolution, and tonight we are just ratifying it. So is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Just to be clear, the police department did get the
Yes.
results from the state police, and everybody's fine.
That concludes our agenda.
Have a motion to adjourn?
No. I wanted to to go back in closed session. I just wanted a quick recap of the negotiations. I'm sorry. I
No,
think
you don't have to
it's-
apologize. Yeah.
What?
Well,
Yeah.
I think the PBA was here because of the contract negotiations.
Yes,
It was
yeah.
not spelled out that it was Rock Springs, so
I think we
Well-
should have a quick conversation give us an update
where we
as a
are with
whole.
that.
whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah, okay, back there, fine.
Yeah, that's not what that,
We just went and came back in.
yeah.
So now you need another
Plus, I
resolution.
don't think this was on the, I don't think.
It
contract
wasn't.
negotiations.
It wasn't. It wasn't.
It wasn't.
If it's not, I mean, is it on the agenda? I mean,
It's not right now.
right.
No,
The
no.
general subject matter was mentioned, but not the specific subject matter, so probably should do it at the next meeting instead of.
Okay.
So put on the agenda for executive.
So,
Okay, so
Okay.
Madam Clerk, you're going to put on an executive session for
Right.
contract negotiations.
At the next.
At the
The
next
next, like
Okay.
an
March
update.
Right, okay.
I think I'll know more than anyway.
Now is there a motion to adjourn?
yes,
Is there a second?
second.
You already did the first.
Oh, I thought I'm sorry.
Second.
Okay, all
There
in
you go.
favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, my colleagues.
Okay.
Thank you, West Orange. Good night. We'll see you at our next council meeting. Thank you so much.